Okay, if we could stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I see the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I thank everybody for coming tonight. The state requires us to have what's known as an organizational meeting every year, and that is a meeting where we set up, the new board members take the oath of office, and we elect the president and vice president for the year, the legislative liaison, and every 3 years we nominate and appoint somebody for the board of Maplewood. So that's what the first meeting we're going to have tonight on here should run. Usually runs 10 to 15 minutes. So we're going to have that meeting at 6:30. Immediately following that meeting, after we will adjourn the organizational meeting, immediately following the organizational meeting, we will then start the meeting, the normal January meeting, regular January meeting. So I see here that some people had asked to speak. What we want to do at this point, Mrs. Wilsey has a meeting at Maplewood tonight. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's a little bit presumptuous. Whoever we elect as or appoint to the Maplewood Board of Education has a meeting at Maplewood tonight that they need to get to. That's why we moved this up from 7 o'clock to 6:30. So, in the interest of time, for the organizational meeting, anybody have anything they would like, any visitors would like to say anything about just the organizational meeting, and then we will have another recognition of visitors as part of the regular meeting.
Yeah,
Mr. Gibson.
Obviously on item 7A, is that with the authorization to purchase stuff, is that with consent of the board?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys don't have consent now, or why is it, I guess we're asking, what does it mean?
This is, I'll let Todd.
Well, you're just authorized us to be the purchasing agent for the board, to make purchases
So he'll sign contracts.
on behalf of the board. So Mr. Montgomery, as a purchasing agent, authorized the purchases, and then I sign off on it as the treasurer, saying that there's enough funds to cover those expenses.
Who does it now?
That's the way
They
it's
always
always.
do. It's always,
The superintendent.
there's nothing different.
So why is it?
We have to do it every year.
Oh, okay.
This is something by law, we have to do this every year. Set up the meeting date,
Okay.
set up, just like Brian just said.
In the little study, it still comes before the board.
Okay.
We're just authorizing him to be our agent, if you will. Like you'll see tonight, I think in the second meeing, we're authorizing buying some buses, I believe.
Okay, so you're going to take clarification on that one, okay? Anyone else?
Well, not to skip that. On 7F, how does that work now? The appeals for suspension, how does that work now? Is it interchange or?
This is the exact same as what the way it operates.
Okay, everything you see here is the same as it's been every year. Okay.
I don't know. There's nothing to do with it. It's intended to change.
So none of this is different. That's-
Correct.
Okay, that was it.
That's why
What
it's
said it, was that $200 a personal gift to a treasurer? I guess we didn't understand that
Oh.
either.
A lot of people donate, different groups and different people will donate like monies to the school. And the board has to accept all donations to the school. But anything that is over the $200 is something we will actually take action on and vote on as part of our public meeting. Anything less than that, the treasurer is authorized to accept it, put it in the appropriate fund and those kind of things. And we still typically, if somebody donates anything to us, we still typically give them a commendation and a thank you and all that kind of stuff for it. It's just $200 and over when we actually take board action.
All right, we just need clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anybody else? Okay, then this time we'll call to order the organizational meeting of the Waterloo Board of Education. Roll call, please, Todd.
Gump.
Here.
Whittlesey.
Here.
Busatary.
Here.
Fletcher.
Here.
Jones.
Okay, that brings us to item 4, the oath of office to new board members. Diane and myself were reelected in November, and as part of the process, we need to be sworn in by our treasurer. Will you stand?
Yeah, you stand. Please, board officers oath of office. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member in and for the Waterloo Local Board of Education of Waterloo Local School District, Portage County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualifies.
Thank you, Tom. The next item is not on the agenda. I was asked, and please bear with me here, I was asked by Mr. Jones to read the following letter. It's page and a half, so please bear with me. Fellow board members, Matt, Todd, and audience, I'm writing this letter to inform you that I am resigning my position as a Waterloo board member effective February 1st, 2014. I want to make it very clear to everyone that I was not asked to resign. I am reluctantly doing so on my own accord. It is also my decision to not attend tonight's meeting, as I don't want this to become a distraction to the business the board must conduct at this evening. In December of 2006, I was diagnosed with diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, one of the worst types of lymphoma you can have, but luckily for me and others, it was the easiest to treat. In June of 2007, I was pronounced cancer-free and in remission. They don't know what causes this type, but they do know that excessive stress accelerates the mutation of the cells into cancer. For those of you that know me, you know that I am a high-strung, passionate person. As much as I hate to admit it, I have a weakness. Handling stress is one of my biggest. Early last spring, I started to notice things very reminiscent to when I was first diagnosed. I freaked out and called my doctor at the Cleveland Clinic. The first words out of his mouth were, "How's your stress level?" I replied on a scale of 1 to 100, about 480. Then he said, "Jonesy, if you want to come back here and see me again, keep going the way you are." Like an idiot, I kept this to myself and tried desperately to fight through it. I was not honest with my family, friends, fellow board members, or myself. The situation has continued to get worse, and here I am. Quite frankly, a mess. I have taken on way too much. My work is crazy. The radio TV show has grown beyond my wildest expectations, trying to raise 4 boys, be a good husband and father, and a good board member. I feel that I have failed them all. As the year passed, I continued down the path of self-destruction. Resigning is not something that just came to me recently. It's been on my mind for a few months. I know the other board members have seen me struggling. As much as I tried to hide it, I have not had 3 continuous hours of sleep in one night for several months. I have become a miserable and grumpy person. It shames me to admit it, but I feel it needs to be said. The person that blew up at last month's board meeting was not the real Steve Jones. It was someone that I despised beyond words. I was out of line and I apologize to all. But it was the sign that I've been praying for. I'm not what you would call a religious man, but I've spent many hours on my knees asking for guidance. I've consulted with people I consider mentors in my life. I'm not trying to portray myself as a raving maniac, but I guess if the shoe fits. Brian Pusateri and I talked for an hour and a half after the last meeting. I had to confide in someone, and I've been good friends with Brian for a long time. We discussed my situation and how I felt I needed to handle it. I am not a quitter, and I won't back down from a fight, but I had to admit I was losing this battle. I want to thank my fellow board members, Matt, Todd, and Andy Hill for their friendship and support. You guys have been my rock, and I appreciate it more than you will ever know. Being responsible for the operation of the school is way more than I have ever dreamed. You folks helped this rookie board member along, very patiently, I might add. And I thank you for that. I apologize for all the late night sessions and for asking so many questions. I just wanted to make sure I had all the facts before casting my vote. It has been an honor to serve the school, community, and kids in Waterloo. Some told me being a board member is a thankless job, perhaps at times, but it also is the most rewarding position I've ever held. Unfortunately, I cannot continue. I'm doing this for my health, plain and simple. I hope everyone will understand that. The stress level of my life has become unmanageable, and I need to make some changes. I'm not going to disappear totally. I just need to back off for a bit and regroup. I have some exciting opportunities coming up concerning the radio TV show that will require my constant attention. I'm 3 years from retirement, but if I don't change my ways, I will never see it. I want you to know I will continue to support you from the outside. I am proud. I'm a very proud Viking. Sincerely, Steve Jones. So
I would like to say, take the opportunity to say that's a great loss for this board. Steve is a very passionate person. He's a fun person. He's a serious person. He's brought a lot of questions. He brought a lot of caring to the board, and we're going to definitely miss that. I enjoyed working with Steve over the past 2 years, and I totally understand his predicament, and I do support him 100%. And I'd like to make a motion that we accept Steve's resignation. I don't know if there's an effective date on it.
effective February 1st.
February 1st, I'd like to make a nomination to accept his resignation and wish him the best of luck.
May I have a second? Any comments or questions?
I want to say the same thing. The first 2 years are the worst years. I can pretty much guarantee, right, Ted?
Yeah.
They're hard. I mean, it's a lot of getting used to. The school runs differently than businesses, and Steve's done a great job. And he's got a big heart, and he brings some humor to us too. But we feel that we work really well together as a board. It's a nice cohesive board. No matter how much we don't get along, when the day is at the end, we agree, and sometimes we really disagree, but we all work together for the best interest of the school. So he's going to be missed, and it's going to be a big hole to fill. So. But his health is the most important thing.
No, I said my words to him earlier today. He knows how I feel.
Thank you. I just want to add that, Steve has been a big part of this community and a big part of this program way before he was a school board member. And it's been great working with him these last couple of years. And it's nice to everybody brings a unique perspective to the board. And it's always good to get that perspective from each of us, and including Steve, in there to help try to come up with the best decision you can. I don't know how many of you remember, but back last spring, this school board was being very highly praised by one of our neighboring school districts for how open we operated, how we're very transparent. It's just everything is out there. We don't try to hide anything from anybody and all that kind of stuff. And that wasn't us singing our praises. That was a neighboring school district saying how well they thought we operated. And I think Steve was a big part of that. And he should be very proud of that process. And Steve's got a great family. His wife is just one of the nicest people you'll ever meet on the face of the earth. And I just hope that he could wish him all the best of luck and get things back under control. And you only get one life, you need to enjoy it the best you can. So with that, roll call, please, Tom.
Gum,
Yes.
Whittlesey,
Yeah.
Secretary,
Yes.
Fletcher.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to nominations for board president. Any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Lisa for board president.
We need to second it?
No.
Sorry. Any other nominations? Okay, then at this point, we will close the nominations and we will say Mrs. Lisa Gump is our board president for the 2014 year. Congratulations. And we will let you take over from there, and in between meetings, we'll serve.
All right.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for your faith in me. All right, we need now to open nominations for board vice president.
I'd like to nominate Ken Fletcher.
Are you willing
Yeah,
to do that?
I'm good. Sounds good to me.
Any other nominations? Okay. Thank you. Congratulations, you're the
Thank you.
vice president. Okay, under the consent agenda. We need to, before we do letter J and I and consent agenda, or H, I, and J, we need to put names to this.
I think the consent agenda will go through C.
No,
So then
it's
it's seven, or do we want to,
seven goes C through J.
you know, we have to name those.
So let's put a motion on the floor and discuss it.
Okay.
So you want me to do the consent agenda only through G?
No, do it all, and part of the discussion.
Okay.
Point. I make the motion.
I'll second.
So Brian. Okay, under discussion. We need someone to, we need a meeting date. Do we want to keep it as Thursday, second Thursday of every month at, 7 o'clock? Is that still the same? Okay, so second Thursday at 7 p.m. Okay. And then we need to appoint a legislative liaison for the calendar year 2014. You want to continue to do that, Kevin, or?
Yeah, I can.
You want to? That doesn't sound real.
It's frustrating. It's a
Well, it is.
frustrating job, but
Because we don't really make control, but it's more about giving us information.
yeah, it's just that Columbus doesn't move very fast.
So, no,
Don't always move the way we'd like to see them.
Yeah.
for the right direction. All right, okay, thank you. And then we need an OSBA delegate and alternate for capital conference for the year 2014.
I wouldn't mind being the delegate.
Okay,
And I can stay as alternate if you want.
for those who don't know what that is, the other stuff was, well, actually legislative liaison, they report what's happening, give us updates on what's happening at every meeting, at what's happening at the state level and the national level in the, education community, so. And then as far as the OSBA delegate, for capital conference, every year in November, there's a capital conference, which is basically, it's a training for superintendents, treasurers, and board members to go. And, we go to Columbus, it's 3 days, and, just classes after classes after classes to educate you on different things that's going on, different, anything that, the state's looking at, so that you know what they're talking about, and to teach about that. They have schools that are building a school, level, they're building this school. They have classes down there on how to do it, and, you know, which building, I mean, everything you can imagine, from building materials to playgrounds to all that kind of stuff, so.
Actually,
Anyway,
this facility was highlighted in one of the sessions.
It was.
Back,
that was a while, that's before I was in.
that was a while ago. But right after we completed the project, in fact, we came in under budget and ahead of schedule and had, didn't have too many issues going on.
Yeah. Okay, so Brian is the delegate and Ken is the alternate. Right, okay. And then we need to appoint a Maplewood Career Center representative for a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2014, and ending December 31st, 2016.
I'll nominate.
Okay, so okay, so now can I, please leave it.
Gump,
Yes,
Whittlesey?
Yeah.
Christenberry?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
motion passes. Okay, so we have a motion for adjournment.
Yes, is there a motion?
McDonald?
Yes.
Wiltie?
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Fleischer? Yes.
Okay, this meeting's adjourned and we move on to the regular. Okay, do you want to do the contributions?
You want to switch over?
Sure. Okay, before we do the, visitors, we're gonna, cause some of the kids come, that way they don't have to sit through this. It gets lazy. So, that's not what's going here, is it? All right. We have some kids that we're gonna recognize at this meeting. We invited them to come so that they can get, their certificates for various things. So we're gonna, have you come up and come through here. We're gonna shake everybody's hands and make it look correct. How's that sound? Okay? Okay. All right, first is Lauren Hinkle. Nicole Rogers. Natalie Wolfen. Mom. You want to take this? Mike? Okay, Kimberly Ralston. Sure, make me start with one I can't pronounce.
There you go.
Nathan Pekarik, is that right? Yes, that's right, okay, at least I said it right. AJ Young.
Easy. Come on ahead.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, Amanda Walker. Okay, another November Pride Card winner, John Hall. Another November Pride Card winner, Joseph Ward. Another November Pride Card winner, Trenton Schlarb. Another November Pride Card winner, Ruth Clairville. Another. Just sit there with the camera, you gotta do that. Cheyenne Gillis. James Blackburn. Oh, okay, well, we'll get those mailed to them. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, that's. Okay. It looks like everybody here wants to talk about the drug testing policy and the agenda. The agenda part was just the question you guys already asked.
Yeah.
Okay. The way the policy reads, we did it differently last month because, we knew you guys were all coming from the meeting. So, but we're gonna do, pick one of you to talk this month, so.
How did that
we're
work?
going to do that. That's the way the policy reads, and that's how we've done in the past, so.
Question?
Well, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna have one talk, whoever you guys want to talk, and then after the meeting, you can stay and we can have all, whoever wants to talk then, do it that way.
The meeting's for?
Pardon me?
Isn't that what the meeting's for?
No, the visitor's time is a time where people can come and express their feelings, and the policy states that, if more than one person wants to talk about the same subject, it has to be one person. I discussed that, we talked about that last month too, so, but we were a little more flexible last month, and let everybody talk, so, this month, that's the way the policy reads, so that's the way we're gonna. So whoever wants to do it, that's fine. But then we can say after the meeting if you want, for a little bit, you know, you guys can.
One person that talks, and we want to talk. It'll be once a month.
And if you want, we put podium up, if you want to sit up there, that's fine too.
That's where we're looking for.
We had some people, there's some kids that watched and they couldn't, hear the visitors. So they had, so some comments were made that they can't see who's talking. So we put the podium up here so we can see who's talking, so, for the people that are streaming it. So if you want to step up to the podium, you can. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we wanted to start last month, we presented multiple statements about the drug policy. I don't know if anybody went online and looked at that. And we just felt like we were ignored. Not all of the board members responded to any of our statements. And I guess we want to ask why.
Well,
I don't mean to interrupt, I would like each board member to give us some response back.
okay, well, I'll start, because last month I wasn't the president. So basically, the way it works is, the way the policy reads, that whenever, do we have copies of it? Okay. No, that's all right, I've seen them. The policy reads that the, visitors address the president. And then if someone else wants to talk, then they ask the president if they can talk. If they agree with what the president's saying, then they don't. It's just keep it moving. So if no one had any problems with what Brian was saying, then we didn't ask to talk, that's just how it works. That's how it's always worked.
So only the president will respond to any statement.
Unless someone else has a view, they're more than welcome to ask the president
Well,
to
they
speak.
all voted yes, so I would assume they would have had some kind of response to 10 different parents that were against the drug policy.
There's a lot more people here tonight than there was last week.
And not one person was here for the drug policy. Not one person was here.
No, I actually asked a couple people why they didn't come, because I said, you're for it, why didn't you come? They said, well, we knew it passed already, so there's no reason to come. So that was the comment I got from several people. So that was me personally. If anybody else has any other comments, they're more than welcome to say. But that's just how it's supposed to be. That's the Robert's Rules of Order, and we have to do things by the sunshine laws. So that's how meetings are supposed to be run. So that's how, we do everything, trust me, we do everything by the book.
But does everybody have an opinion, or do they, okay, I guess another question was, were you told not to respond to our statements by anybody?
If you know any of us, that won't work.
I don't, that's why I'm
Okay,
asking.
yeah, that's just not gonna happen.
Is that true?
Anyone that knows me knows
Nobody was
I'm.
told not to respond to any of the statements by anybody?
No.
No? Okay, that just was a question. Okay. What else do we have?
Have you guys picked an official to handle the drug testing yet?
Did you pick
I
up?
mean, you've enacted this drug testing, right?
What the-
It's
Okay, through lots of thought and, contemplation on that, Matt's gonna be that person.
Now, in the beginning, you said you weren't ready to delegate.
He wasn't.
But listen, she said through lots of conversation, they feel most comfortable with me being the representative.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
And Matt said that.
Yeah.
I did.
Matt said that, none of us agreed with him.
We didn't
So
say
that was his
That was,
decision,
that
but,
Right.
was, we set that person.
right,
So that was
he's not our
basically-
boss or his boss.
That was our decision.
Sorry, Matt, but
Okay.
we are.
And that's the
And
difference.
none of us agreed with his comment. We were not happy, we didn't want him not to be the person, we wanted him to be the person, because frankly, there's just too much pressure on anybody else that would be that, because, you know, if you keep it to one person, because let's face it, if you have another administrator being that person, at some point, they may have to come to Matt, because he's the superintendent. So to make him the person, that leaves out anybody else. We don't have to know anything about it, no one else knows anything about it, no information. So, and he deals with the drug testing company, he deals with them. So we thought it was the best for him to be the person.
Have you picked the drug testing site, a secure location for the actual testing?
Nurse's office, here.
In the high school nurse's office, correct? Sorry, I hope it is, because I don't want to say it
That's
and
why,
then be wrong.
aren't we always, I mean, are you guys not aware of this?
No, we are, but I want to make sure, you know,
That you're correct.
I just don't want to say anything wrong.
There were questions.
Tim and Brian have done a lot of this because Brian's the president, so I want to make sure that,
There were questions about, there'll be people coming in and out of the nurse's
Right.
office. We have the nurse's office in the middle school and the elementary, and that's where everything, there would be some other students who wouldn't be involved in the testing process who needed assistance from Mrs. Carpenter. They would just be fielded down there, so there wouldn't be any other traffic in that office. We could isolate that space.
yeah.
All right, now that everyone's signed the papers, are they gonna start the polls now, or what's the deal with that?
When are you gonna start the pool?
You mean
Are you
starting,
can you start testing tomorrow?
Yes.
yes,
So it's full go right now.
Yes.
it was in December. That once the paper, that was going to go and then paper.
Are you doing the baseline testing like you talked about originally, or
No, it's random.
it's straight random?
We didn't have enough votes for baseline.
If a parent requests to be notified before being tested, will you adhere to that and have, like if someone's names get called and they want, if their parent wants to be there during the testing, will you guys abide by that?
We'll do our very best to accommodate that, but it's not written in the policy. I have no problem, if you express that interest, we'll have Mrs. English make sure that you're aware.
And I think clearly if the child's upset or nervous about it,
They're gonna be able, they will be able to contact.
Yeah.
You can't really put that in the policy because, I'm sorry, I should shut up. But
Why should you shut up?
Okay, no, that's not it. It's just the way Robert's rules run the meeting, and we have to run it the way we
I
run it.
hate to see you guys act like you can't talk.
But that's not the way it is.
That's how it's presented.
if we put a situation, if we put a clause in the procedure that says, we will personally talk to the parent before we do that,
And then what if we can't?
Because me as a parent, I'm going to hold you some days, it's impossible, so, we're gonna make an attempt, we have a voicemail, that kind of thing, but we're not, we can't actually guarantee we're gonna make a comment, personal connection with it. And just, everybody's working and everything.
And I think what's getting lost in all the things, everybody cares about kids just as much as you do. I mean, that's what this school is. It's not like it's gonna be, what would happen at the county jail. That's not the way it works. This is
What's your
supposed
making
to
it look
be.
like for school is full of drugs?
No, we're not.
Yes, you are.
No, we're not.
And I was never notified, but I am to voice my opinion. I've gone through 5,000 emails and I have nothing from people.
What's getting lost is you didn't accept you aren't listening to us.
But Judy, we did
You
listen.
listen to Facebook friends and football games.
No,
We presented our cases last month and not one of you had a response.
because it was already passed.
Yeah,
Last
and
week.
unfortunately, you have destroyed the board now. You have divided the community and you're destroying your board.
Did you hear the letter?
I did hear it.
And there were issues before all this came
I
about.
heard it loud and clear.
Well, then you need to call Steve if you don't believe it.
We've talked to Steve,
Well,
okay?
Why did
We've
you
called
drop?
him.
but anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Where we at?
All right. During this test, you guys are testing for alcohol. A child is in communion and, you know, takes wine or the precious blood. Will that show up on the test or not? Let's say you took on Sunday and Monday the test happens.
Okay, that
Will that
question
show up?
was asked for the parent meeting.
And what did he
He
say?
never, he didn't know.
No, what he said was that level is not going to be at the point where it's gonna come up as a, like, I don't know what the numbers are, but like, say it's a 2, and the level that's unacceptable would be a 5.
Would you verify that for us? And
He
get that in
said
writing?
he didn't know.
Can we get that? Okay.
And if that's true that you don't know, will you take alcohol off the drug testing?
Well, I'm not, you mean off the policy or just not off that as one of the things?
Not maybe I'm gonna test for over the
We'll
counter.
check on it and then
Okay,
we'll let you know.
I would like an answer.
We'll check on it,
I'm
let
not
you know.
getting any response.
Well, the hard part about that too, I thought about that too that night, because I thought, why isn't he giving us a straight answer? And basically what he was saying was, it shouldn't be at that level, but to give, let's say we know that, 0.8 is driving while intoxicated. So now they have these little tests, they're these little keychains, I saw someone with it over the holidays. They were drinking, and they kept testing themselves to make sure they weren't at that point. So as long as they're not at that point, then they're not gonna get arrested for DUI. So they think they can drink right up until that point and not get arrested, which is probably true, but at the same time, are they safe to drive? Who knows? So if we're giving them a number, we're saying, if you're at a 10, then you're gonna pass positive. Then, are they gonna push it to an 8? Because they know they're not gonna, that little bit of,
I'm
has
more
to be there.
concerned that this state is infringing on religious rights at that point. That's where I'm.
Yeah.
I'm not willing.
Right, well, we'll check on it. We'll let,
I
can you
appreciate
email
that.
them and let them know, what you find out? Okay.
Well, that's a
And
smoke
then,
on that.
you might as well look up secondhand smoke.
He did say second smoke.
Okay, okay.
He did say that, he said second.
So are you testing for over-the-counter smoking and alcohol and other drugs? Is that included in all the tests?
The policy says nay.
So it's up to your discretion as a delegated council to decide that? Or who decides that? Is that not a question that you guys would?
Now, we have raised that question. We all have different opinions on that. My personal opinion, and the other ones, you guys can speak if you want. My personal opinion is, if you say you're not gonna test for drugs or for nicotine and alcohol, then the kids are think they can just do it, and they're not gonna get caught. So there isn't that, like we said, if a kid's at a party and he thinks he's gonna get tested, so he's not gonna drink, so now he knows that alcohol's not one of the things on the test, so he's gonna drink. So you're not helping that child at that point. So to put that out there, it's in the policy that, but we don't know that that's gonna be the one that's gonna be tested.
Who picks the panel is the question. Who's gonna choose what's on each panel every time you test?
It's gonna be
Now,
with.
with our guidance,
With
with our
their
guidance,
consultation, I will fill it out.
right,
Because you guys will tell, you know, what panel, what's on each panel.
right, we'll have to meet with him, and, when we go to executive session, that would be something, and that would be executive session. Right.
And then,
Do you guys need? You want to say something? No?
I just remember a comment in the audience about coffee stain, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. They're afraid to let their child have a coffee stain roll because of this now. And the man said, okay, you would have to consume a whole garbage bag full of coffee stains in order for your kid to test positive. So it's just a matter of, you just gotta get the information right.
Just like what he said about, if they are on something, and whenever they get tested and it comes up positive, then they will contact the parents. That will know, and after they contact the parents, and the parents say, yes, they're taking whatever, I don't know, prednisone or.
Yeah, because I asked about the
Some-
albuterol,
yeah.
my child used to be on
Right.
albuterol, is that gonna
They will
test?
call,
Yeah, it's gonna
they will
test.
call the parent first and get that verification, And if that's the verification and they get the drug amount and it's all the way it's supposed to be, you'll never get phone call. So that's not, that's between you and your children.
Now, another quick question, when, kids that are in extracurricular sports, all right? Now, the coach of that sport is also extracurricular, he's volunteering to do that, is he gonna be drug tested, he or she? Why not, it's extracurricular. They chose to do that, but they choose to do that.
Well, no, they get paid to do that.
What
We
about-
pay to participate.
What about ones that don't work for the school?
We actually are looking into, we are checking on if we can add that into the coaches. We're not sure that we can because their contract comes off of the teachers, the WA contract. So we're not sure, we don't think we can
All
do that.
supplementals are within.
They're based on that. So they're based on, they come off of, they're written in the WA contract. So unfortunately, we're bound by that WA contract first. So whenever we redo the contract, like we said in the past, we're gonna, that's gonna be one of the things that we're gonna ask for is to put that in the teacher's contract. So that would be under the coaches then also.
Okay, let's say, this is probably going from the treasurer's part. Let's say, what is it gonna cost the school with one student left, approximately? What do you get funded from the state per student?
$5,700,
How much?
$5,800 per student.
58? Okay.
Plus the.
Wait a minute, and then, let's say they play 3 sports, it's about $600 a year added to that. So if 10 students left Waterloo School, we came up with about 60,000. Is that pennies to Waterloo? No, what would you think if you lost 10 students because of this drug policy? What would each board member think? I'd like, if we would allow them to speak.
I don't care.
Okay.
Want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. I have called several other school districts. I have cousins who live in the Perrysburg School District. I have called several of the other ones on the list that they gave us and asked if they lost children, if they lost athletes, and all of them answered with a no.
Zero.
Zero.
How many kids from
Now, the guy
Waterloo?
there that night said, I think he said the numbers went up, didn't he?
For
But
participation.
I didn't ask that question. I didn't say if you gained any. Didn't make sense to me to ask that question, but, I asked if they lost any. And they said no, and actually the one, my husband's cousin that lives in Harrisburg, I said to them, well, how did your parents I went through a whole conversation. And they said, actually, they now have a better football team than they had before, because there's no distractions. They went to, I forget, district championships or beyond or something like that. And they said they were thrilled with the whole policy because it cleaned up the school and they're cleaned up and they have a better sports program all around. And
Okay.
their child's in football and wrestling, so,
Has anybody left sports?
Yeah, has anybody quit driving or dropped out of sports because of this policy as of right now?
Right now, we have one person who is not engaged in sports.
They actually pulled their child out?
No, they
Not a school.
just didn't.
Of the sport?
Yeah, one.
What about driving and stuff?
How many
Driving right
permits have you
now,
lost?
I don't have that number finalized, but I'm thinking there's 3 to 4 no's, and I don't have if they're, what category they fall in. That are outside of sports.
Finding them out. Those people could be leaving at the end of the year.
So you're losing revenue as we're speaking?
good.
You are.
Well, not,
No.
if they're leaving this.
Parking permits, sports, isn't that, don't you guys pay for parking permits, right?
$10.
Okay.
Is it 10?
You're giving that money back, right? Because you're not allowing them to drive to school.
That's something, yes, we can talk, you want to talk about refunds later?
We'll talk about that during the meeting. We'll talk about that during the meeting. We're gonna discuss that during the meeting.
Refunding the people that didn't want to sign the drug policy?
I'm sorry, you asked about,
Oh, yeah, you guys.
asked about, how we feel, and I think if we lose one student, that's terrible. But, you're always, in this position, you're always weighing things. There is no clear-cut decision you're gonna make that everybody agrees with. That's just never gonna happen. And so you're constantly weighing what you can do to help students. Also, help as many students as possible. And that's where That's how I came to the decision to support and vote in favor of the drug policy. That plus the fact that we took out the first time it happens, there's no penalty essentially. And we all agree this is going to be a living, breathing document that we're going to constantly monitor and revise as we need to. And I think later in the meeting, we might even talk about some things that we're going to change, that we want to change in the policy. But, we're looking at tweaking, and it's one of those things we want to do. So with those assurances, I think, I've already heard from somebody that all of us here know, or I would say that almost 99% of us here know, this person told me that they were told by 2 or 3 parents that their kids came to them and said, the drug testing policy is in place, is going to happen. I'm going to stop messing around with drugs so that I can play sports. So I don't want to hurt. So in my mind, I didn't go to this person and ask. They came to me, so I don't know what you're sniffing about. But that's the point, is that
Maybe we can have a raise of
Is
hands.
anybody for drug testing right now in this room?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's against the drug testing in this room? It's the majority again. You're not listening to the majority.
Now you're listening to the news to you.
Oh, just like on Facebook and.
That would matter.
Right? Okay.
No, let's face it, if someone knows if someone knew this was happening back in August and September when we were talking about it, and they had no problem with it, what reason would they have to come?
Because of what's written in the policy.
We didn't know.
It's a
If
general.
they're for it, I'm saying, if they're for it, there's no reason to come and argue against it.
Taking away constitutional rights.
But they're not against it, that's what I'm saying. The people that are for it, they don't feel like they have to speak up and say anything. If they want to, they're more than welcome.
We were not aware of this was
You
going
guys
on
talked
because
about
the
this, but
communication was
it
not.
wasn't on the agenda. I've gone back.
Why?
We
We had no
idea. Never had a real session with the public.
That's my problem, that's our
We
problem.
never had this on the agenda ever.
Okay,
Why?
we had a parent meeting, correct?
I never got notification of it.
You were there.
Oh, that parent meeting. I meant before the policy
We're talking
was
about
passed.
board adopting
The
that
policy
statement.
was not passed at that meeting.
I believe it was during a basketball game also.
Well, it's went, you can't get everybody.
Which parent meeting are we talking about?
Which one was
The
clear?
parent meeting that the drug rep was here.
Oh, that was a sales
It's
pitch.
already
That was a sales pitch.
No, it cannot. It has not passed. That was the Wednesday before it passed. It didn't
Already
pass.
passed.
Okay, sorry.
And that
in the fall.
In the fall.
They presented us at the board meeting before that parent, before the board vote. Right, okay, so they were at, that's what I'm thinking of, they were at a board meeting
And they did the
to
same
present
presentation.
to us before it passed.
It was never been on the
Okay,
agenda.
so why has it never been on the agenda and
I'll bring it
after
back. We can
that?
email that to you too, because I know it was, it had been.
No, never was. I just saw your board meeting minutes. I looked.
I'll look too.
It's never been publicly debated.
And after we had so many people here presenting speeches and statements, why is it not being talked about this tonight?
We have
We are
numbers of, people that want the policy. I speak to people in the community and out of the community every single day. And I have had maybe one person out of all the people that talk to me on a daily basis that's against it. I probably have had 99% that are for it. And none of them are here right now.
Have they read the
But
policy?
why are they not here? Because according to what, your opinion, if you're not here, you don't care. Why do we care what these people think? Because that's what you guys stated at one of the parent meetings.
No, that's not.
If you don't show up to these board meetings, you don't care about your kids. We have so many parents that have,
Jimmy, we didn't say that, another parent said.
I don't think that, I don't want that to be misunderstood. I have never said that if you don't show up at a board meeting, you don't care, and I don't know, I've
I'm
never.
not a parent of the
It must
parent
have
meeting,
been
and I
somebody-
continue to take, but the
It was an
point
anonymous
is,
representative. I didn't-
where are your parents that want it? Where are their speeches?
But they don't have to give a speech. it had already passed, that's what I'm saying.
Passed without public debate, that's
Passed
our problem.
without, it doesn't have to have public debate. I understand that, but it's in your code that okay, that's why we did what we did, okay, that's, we're not gonna agree on that, so let's just move
I
on.
just want to, before we move on too far, are you keeping track of questions we need to get back to?
We only have one so far, on the community one, correct? Right, and then I'll check on the other agenda.
Agenda, it's October, it's right in front of me, Thursday, October 10th, 2013, 7 o'clock. Number 5, superintendent's report, first line item, random drug testing policy.
Right. And was there notification sent out to the parents through the student body as so many other things are sent to us prior to that meeting?
No, what we have to do for a board meeting, you have to, if the public's not noticed, to be in the newspaper. And then everyone, and if you
Now
know,
we do it to
you can get
500
online
people.
and see what the agenda is before the meeting.
Waterloo distribution goes, which is approximately 500 people, get the agenda emailed to them for their requests. They reach out to Andrew and myself, and then also the Facebook communication.
Right.
And Twitter, if you would like to be on the email distribution, please make sure you get Matt your email address, and he will make sure every month when the agenda goes out, you'll be on that distribution.
And also on the school website, it says that, and there's a way to get on that list also through the school website.
Click on the website, go to.
Yes, it's all on the website. If you get on the website, there's, everything's on there that you can imagine.
You know, but here's another, if someone gave us notes, it's saying the same thing we've been saying all
Read
along. We
it,
want
you know,
the
give
board
them
to
this
sit down
letter,
and
read
read
it, read it. This is a parent that handed
Yeah,
us
so
this
Steve
letter.
Jones said, in my opinion, with all notes I've taken, we would be crazy. I think we need to sit down and relook at this timing, or this thing. No one had said the policy is chiseled in stone. Come to the next meeting, we'll sit down and talk about what we are going to do,
This was in regards to repolling the community.
which we asked to do.
Okay. Another thing that a parent gave us to read, I don't have a problem going back and seeing how many are for this and who aren't. Again, in regards to repolling the community. I think that's what the whole thing's about, and you guys just aren't seeing it.
No, we are.
We need to sit down as a group, like I said, I'm just doing quotes here. I don't think that any of us are dumb enough to sit here and believe that we shouldn't have some type of conversation about this. And again, it was not even presented on the agenda tonight, which we don't understand why. Second, Brian Pusateri was quoted as stating, we need to figure out where we go from here, I guess, in quotes, I'm just reading. So based on the statements made, I want to know if you have gotten together and revisited this policy. Have any adjustments been made, and has the policy been revised, and where is the new policy? I'll add that.
There can't be a policy without a board meeting.
There can't, yeah,
We can't just, we can't get together.
we can't, we're not getting together and talk.
Anytime there's 3 of us together, we cannot talk about school business. If there's 3 of us, if there's a quorum, more than half,
That's
the
the
majority.
sunshine. We
That's
can-
part of the sunshine. So we can't,
One-on-one.
we can't meet.
Okay.
One-on-one, I guess,
Yeah,
we can talk.
Yeah.
Can you talk electronically, email?
No,
Not at all.
whenever we
Right.
reply, we have to reply just to the person that said, we can't do reply all.
Like, I can't send an email to all the board members. I have to
No.
send an email separately.
So I'm just curious if I honestly don't know. What would have been a harm in calling a special meeting in lieu of what happened last month? Why could that not have happened?
I mean, it could have happened, it cost me, cost money to do it, so that's just how we are. I'm telling you, you might think that this $3,000, we're thinking it's not much. To us, it's a big deal. I mean, that's why we did put time and effort into it. We did. There's, no one can say we haven't, because we have.
What's the cost of another meeting?
I don't know. I don't know, I never sat down and figured out, I just know it costs money. Because you have to have everybody here, you have to have, pay the board members, you have to, do that, not that it's much, but it still, it does, it costs money.
Well, it's back to our question about if 10 kids left because of this, how much it can cost the school
Right.
district.
And
Hell,
also-
not more than a board meeting.
Well, and another thing too is whenever the levy passed, a lot of people are bringing that up, and whenever the levy passed, they think that, I don't know how other people do their expenses at their home, but whenever it passed, it didn't mean that we were saying, okay, we're gonna spend money, because we were already at the bottom level. whenever we passed it. It was just enough to get us by. And so at that point, we were continually looking at ways to cut costs. We looked into shared superintendent, we looked into shared treasurer, which we ended up doing. We also looked into, we had already looked into snowplow. We purchased our own truck and we saved like almost $40,000 last year and so far this year in just that alone, just by being smart about the way to do things. We also, I mean, with the shared treasurer, we saved. So those kind of things, I mean, it's just like anyone else would do at their own house. You're trying to save everywhere you can. We didn't stop because of levy pass. We continued to try and save money. We brought in 2 new teachers. We tried to, increase that and do what we need to do there. And so that kind of, whenever we save that money, to spend $3,000, I mean, that's why we didn't do baseline testing, because it would have cost $5,000, which, that's $2,000 more.
We can save you a lot of money.
Well-
Not doing it.
Well, that's what you think, but I mean, there's also people that say the other thing. I mean, we might have kids come into the district because they know that we have this and they're for it.
But you didn't answer the question. That's wrong. Why have you been retold or talked about?
Yeah, that's.
That's what we're all.
Okay, so you're saying to recall, so how do you want us to recall? So apparently the way it's, okay, for the last, okay, listen, for the last 4 years, we've tried to get communications out of people. 4 years. The best way we could get it out was by doing it this way, by having this list of 500 people and by Facebook. I'm sorry, I'm not a big Facebook fan either. But, I mean, the word gets out. It gets out faster than you want it to sometimes. But that's the best way we knew to get it out, and that's what we did.
Most people in this room probably found out was on the front page of the Record Couriers when I found out about all this stuff.
It was decided already by then.
It had been in the paper. It had been in the
It was on the
paper.
front page of the paper before it was decided.
Many people come up
We're
to me
just
at church.
thinking about it, didn't say in 2 months it's gonna be
Well, I
passed.
think if you were concerned about it, that would cause concern.
I had people come up to me at church, elderly people come up to me at church and address me on it and say, what's going on, why are you doing this? And they'd ask me questions and I tell them, this is before this was in October. So, they were asking questions back then, so.
Your church.
Huh?
I didn't go to your church.
How do I go to my church?
I said I didn't go to your church.
I know, but I'm saying, none of us go, I don't think any of us goes to it.
I'll keep my mouth shut. Last week, or last meeting, the one that's waiting to sit here, said, some school districts actually, somebody in Pennsylvania, the results went to the parent, not to the school.
That was Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
The results from the drug testing went to the parent. Do you think that the parents know that these kids are drinking or doing drugs or whatever they're doing? So why would it be a public thing? Why wouldn't we?
It's not a public thing.
It is a public thing. If he knows who it is, it becomes public.
Okay,
I'm
good.
saying, these are things that I think that we could have talked about. Keep the drug testing. See, I'm all for drug testing, but my thing is it should be for everybody. However, if you're gonna do this, why don't you entertain some of the things that people have said? Maybe you still do the training drug testing or mandatory drug testing, and mandatory drug test everybody on a program, and the program, the extracurricular program, but the result goes straight to the parent, not to the school board, not to the school, not to the nurse, not to anybody else.
Well, the first line, like I just said, if they are positive, the first phone call is to the parent
Right.
at that point. So there is a line right there drawn to that parent. And if the parent doesn't give them some kind of backup, then it does go to the school. But I
This
mean,
is, I
that,
guarantee you, if somebody tests positive for drugs, everybody in the school community is gonna know.
someone else said that to me, the only way they're gonna find out that everybody knows is if the kid or the parents. That's the only way they're gonna find
Or
out.
if a kid gets suspended from the program.
It's not gonna happen the first time.
Okay, the first, what I'm saying,
3 times it has to happen.
okay,
3 times. I mean, it's pretty.
I think the other thing is, and I just want to interject here, is the school has tons, literally files and files of personal information on every student in there. We have files about all the medical records, their allergies, or, you know, if there's a divorce situation, we have probably copies of the divorce decree. I mean, we have just literally tons, I don't know how else to say it, literally tons and tons of personal information on every student in this district. I think at one point, we had their IQ, I don't know if we still have that or not, but, you know, where they actually have been tested.
They can do that?
Their IQ. You know, so I mean, we have, and that information and we are really, and that information is kept in individual offices within the building. Now, this is going to be kept in one place in a locked file cabinet in Mr. Montgomery's office. And
Diane has to go to the next board meeting.
and if somebody doesn't pass the test, the board members aren't going to know who it is. You know, I
We don't know any of that other information.
We don't know any of that other information either, but we're not going to know any of the, you know, I mean, it's not going to be a discussion, it's not going to be a part of any sitting around the lunch table or whatever, take a booth for a basketball game or a football game and discussing it. I mean, this is a very serious issue, you know, this is a very serious thing, and, you know, and you just look at what's going on in the world today. Governor Kasich, today just had a big deal about starting a drug awareness program for parents, to get parents involved in helping their kids stay off drugs and those kind of
They're
things.
great here.
And if we
Why
can,
don't we start with that?
and
Education.
if we, as a school, can help that process, if we can get, I'm just wondering, a parent to talk to their kids about drugs, that's a great thing.
So it's the topic of the whole community, so it's, I mean, it does something,
And based on what I've been told by somebody who I believe, and I believe this person with all my heart, that told me that they've heard of 2 or 3 kids that are going to stop doing the partying and all that kind of stuff because their sports are that important. I mean, to me, that's a sign of success.
We have some questions from the audience.
Are they the same thing that you've already asked?
What was a specific, very specific to why you did address their specific drug problems at the school?
Where are the numbers that show we have a drug problem? This is the only perceived problem. Do we have a drug
Other
problem?
than
in Waterloo?
hearsay.
I know you stated it before, but not everybody.
Well, I think that's more, I don't know how to say it. I find out more about things like that from my kids and from other kids than I do from, no, I'm not saying that's what I went by. I'm saying me personally, but I don't even know, because that's not my job. That's the superintendent's job. That's the superintendent's job, that's the principal's job, and that's all confidential. That's not something that we can.
We don't have to know who, where, and what.
I
We
called
just know
Sheriff
what
Bill.
there is.
And I said to him we were thinking about this policy, and I said about drugs in our school. And he said that drugs are the #1 problem in the county. This is his words to me, he said, if you think there are not drugs in your school, you're a fool.
You've said it, I know, and you said that multiple times. But my question was, yes or no? Do we have a problem in Waterloo School with drugs? Mr.
How many
Meyer?
I'm saying, how many
So you're
people?
saying, yes, we do.
Well, when you say we have a problem, you say if we have one child on drugs,
Has a problem.
you wanna, we have one child?
Problem with drugs.
To me, if it's
I'm
one
not
child,
asking
Question,
drugs,
you know,
I'm
I can't answer that question.
has any authorities come in here and found drugs on the students or in the school, Yes or no?
Yes.
yes.
The sheriff thought it's getting found.
I didn't say it, Sheriff. I said yes. There have been drugs in these schools.
Yes.
Yes. Last year and this year. Yes.
There has been.
Yes.
Another question, how is this going to affect Maplewood if they don't sign the paper?
If they perform an extracurricular or if their driver's student is the same as a student that is on campus.
Okay,
They'll just ride the bus to New York and ride it Maplewood.
okay. There was a statement, like, again, don't take, we're reading this from. Lisa Gott made the comment in one of the meetings that I have watched online that many of the fall sport player parents are mad because this drug policy has not been put into effect yet. So this makes me think if there are sport players' parents mad that maybe there was a specific student or student playing sports that they think may be using drugs. That is where those concerned parents should go to school officials and voice their concerns. Then the school officials either watch and handle the problem, or if need be, contact county law officials.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that. I mean, if you see something happening in your school, definitely go to the authorities. No one says you should wait for them to maybe get tested. If you see something happening and you know someone's doing something, by all means, but unfortunately, a lot of kids don't want to be snitch, you know, so they'll tell somebody else or they'll tell somebody else. But I tell the parents, you need to, have your child talk or go in and sit down with the principal, go in and sit down with the superintendent. I agree 100% with that. If you see something happening, by all means, because that's different. If they are doing something on school property, this is different. Random drug testing isn't to do with, let's say they're smoking a cigarette or they have snuff or whatever they call it, I don't know, in their car. That's not legal. That is illegal. They can't get a 3-day suspension for that because you're not allowed tobacco on school property. If you have alcohol on school property, you are expelled. There's no questions in that. And those laws were brought up, those policies were brought up a long time ago.
See, it's 3 days to get caught with snuff?
Yes, it is,
Why did he give my son 10 days for it then?
because it is first offense.
That's a sub, we need to.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just throwing this out. You say it's 3 days, he give you 10. Why?
Yeah, it's a cumulative process. Was it just one person?
One time,
And that's something that I don't.
after
So
school.
did he might have had other demerits also, not just for that. No. You can't talk, you really shouldn't talk about your kids.
Well, that's fine, I'm just saying.
I mean, I will tell you this, if you
Meet with
want.
them after.
Yeah, you can meet with the
And discuss
superintendent.
it, if it, meet with them.
Yes.
I need to-
Yes, okay.
Okay, there was, like I said, I was just reading questions here. Who's the vendor? The name, was it? Was it drug testing policy?
Great Lakes
Great
Biomedical.
Lakes Biomedical.
Are there records listed on their website, like their false positive rates and things like that?
There's a path there.
It's all there.
Great Lakes Medical Services.
Either one. If you want to ask me, it's my his website.
And it's
He had a phone number, they have a phone number.
And is their policies written somewhere?
Yeah,
There, yes.
There,
everything's,
Okay.
I can give you one of these, it's one of the things on the.
They will go by our policy.
Yeah, they have theirs, but then we
in our
combine it
policy,
with
it's not really clear on exactly how
The
the,
chain of custody and all that.
yes.
We're gonna go over.
And that's what I'm looking at. Mislabels happen every day. I know this for a fact. And, I just want to be clear on who is the double verification on.
Right, we
labels.
have that, we actually have that to go over later, correct? We have that chain of custody is in,
We have information.
yeah, we have that.
Okay, I think, I want to say that we had one community member email some questions, and we did get responses for those, and unfortunately, we thought the person that got the email was forwarding back to the person asking the questions, and that wasn't taking place. But we found out about that today, and are correcting that, or maybe we have corrected that by now?
I haven't sent it to him.
Okay, but those emails are coming, we just thought, so I mean, if we get, we got a letter with questions that was directing
We
and
have gone
specifics
right
about.
away.
Has the board got a letter from the community?
One board member.
One board member got a letter from a community member and asking questions about, specific questions about policy.
So Matt, go
And we
ahead.
have, been working through the drug testing company and the board attorney, and that, getting questions, and there may be a slight change to the policy, adjustment to the policy as a result of that. We're not,
We're listening. Just because we don't talk, doesn't mean we're not listening.
We want to place the policy in place.
Pardon me?
We put a policy in place.
Yes, we did.
That's where we're having trouble.
And the people that said yes before, it thought everybody would be tested, the students, the staff.
If we could.
But
They were
the
under
people
the
told you yes,
assumption,
may have been
yeah.
under that assumption, that's all.
Which you can opt into, you don't have to.
Yes, you can opt in.
It's opt in, you still don't have to pay. I wanna know if my kid is on it, I don't know.
Yeah, you
And
can.
that was one of the things that was very important to me personally. was
Parents will do the job in the first place, we wouldn't be here talking.
So.
I do.
All right, anything else?
And I don't have this, letters from
Stated in section stated intent of drug testing is to help kids. Obviously, this board feels the parents are involved and aware of the current drug trends. Waterloo hosted Hidden in Plain Sight Drug Education Night. You were probably disappointed with the turnout. I can see why not many attended, but it did. I was there for the presentation. To provide useful information for parents, so wouldn't it be more effective to give parents a real choice, not simply a choice to sign a form or not? Why not give parents an option to attend drug education night instead of signing authorization form for each drug test? Some may believe that all these opinions are an intrusion on personal choices and liberties. I can't say that I disagree, but if your intent is to bully your way into my home anyway, I would, however, appreciate another option that would not punish my child for my conviction.
I don't think that's the intent whatsoever. The intent is to.
This is what one person.
I know, I'm just saying, whoever, whether, okay,
There's a little bit more.
We
This
do
is
one
What's that?
more, just finish, yeah, you said.
Yeah.
It's still the same one.
It was at the drug education night that I heard the police officers endorse drug testing. They told us they endorsed drug testing. They also informed us that they could be purchased at drugstores. They did not say that they endorsed mandatory drug testing in school. Wouldn't it be better to partner with parents instead of alienating them by attempting to usurp their authority? Wouldn't you prefer that parents be informed and educated so they can monitor their own children's activity, or is it really just about control? Those who don't object to drug testing and want to allow the school to do it for them, what they can do for themselves, well, that's for them to decide. They may choose to sign the authorization form and not bother attending the education night. For those of us who do object to drug testing, should we not be given another choice that will raise drug awareness but does not punish the children for our conviction? Wouldn't a policy which actually provides opinions be better one? You could provide this opportunity to increase awareness and not demanding that parents authorize the school to act as the local drug enforcement agency as well. You cannot please anyone, but it is not an impossible task to find workable solutions to opposing these views.
We wanted another option. We asked for that in our previous last month. We wanted the option to opt out without penalizing our kids for playing sports.
That would not even make a policy, not even.
But that's-
Why?
it's
Wait
us
a minute,
controlling
why?
the
Why doesn't that make the policy any good?
Because you're not, I mean, at that point, you're not, there's no force.
No, why doesn't that make the policy any good if we want
I
to
can't
out?
think of the right word. I mean, the policy is to make sure that our kids are safe. It is to make sure that there are not drugs in our school.
You are doing that. People
But-
are in the policy.
You said,
Why?
someone just said, do you really think, Ron, you said, do you really think there's parents that don't know their kids are doing drugs? Yes, I do. So that person, let's say you guys think that your child's not doing drugs, and let's say they are, and you do the opt-out, then you never know that your child's doing drugs, they overdose, and I'm not saying that that's gonna, I'm just saying. Well, and that's, right, but I'm saying, then, and there's a lot of people
But
that are like that.
why won't you allow
It wouldn't
us
be
to opt
necessary
out?
policy.
Why?
You're a
Why-
better parent than anybody else.
You can do that, I'm not.
Why wouldn't you let us opt out without penalizing our kids? Why?
Well, I mean, that, to me,
Why
that
can't you
makes the
implement that?
policy that then you don't need a policy.
How? If
I
the
just don't think
policy
you need a
is
policy.
only covering a small percentage
That's not
right
coming
now,
out of the kids.
what makes a difference? You're not even covering 100. So even if 5% pulled out because their kids are being punished, how would that affect anything? You're still getting 2, 5, 15% of the students. You're only getting 20% right now. How effective is that?
Well, just like everything else, we'll talk about it some more.
Could you please, in the next meeting,
Well, it'll be a meeting.
I'm not hearing the in support of that option.
But we can discuss, I mean, we have no problem discussing, like we have done, I mean, there have been emails and information and, going back and forth, trying to, when we get questions, we address them to Matt addresses them to the lawyer, we get it back, so that's all, and that's not gonna stop because it's a new policy. If this policy was written 10 years ago, then there wouldn't be this discussion would have been done and everyone would have just accepted it because that's the way it is, just like the other policies that we have.
But that question.
I'm trying to think of another one at the moment.
The question that you have posed has been asked to them before, and the
Yeah.
feedback that I got to them, or got back from them, was that they're not interested in that.
Well, that's what we need to know.
So that's what I'm saying. The
Yeah, the
feedback,
policy was
so when you
just
asked that at
regulated.
previous meetings, and I reached out to them individually, and they responded back to me individually, I did not get the perception that they were interested in that alternative.
Who's
Well,
that?
how do you
The
know
board
they
member.
changed their mind?
We
Are
don't,
you
but
speaking for
But
the?
no, if we can change our mind,
we
we
spent
should
a
have.
lot of time talking about communication tonight, so I think it's under my due diligence to explain how I arrive at the conclusions that I do. So when I polled them initially and they give me that feedback, I think it, under due diligence, I should say, hey, I asked them that question that you're asking me again, just like you asked the meeting before and the meeting before, and the answer was they're not interested. Now, could they have changed their mind? Sure, but she just said that she was going to talk about it some more.
Yeah,
So
what,
what, I'm just, I'm allowed to ask.
You
if
are,
they're
but I'm allowed to
gonna give
answer as well.
input. That's
Yeah.
fine.
but
But
it's
so what I'm
on
asking is,
And we're
listening, if you could think about an option where our kids are punished for opting out, that's what I'm presenting to you. That's all.
You just brought up an excellent point. This policy costs $3,000. How much are you spending on attorney fees?
We have one fee for the year.
Yeah, we
It's
did,
all
that
under
doesn't change, no matter what we ask.
$18,000 for the legal services for the year.
Yeah, so that doesn't change.
There
That's
is
the
no
same,
hour.
it's like a blanket.
Who is the attorney secretary?
Day Ketter.
Who?
Day, D-A-Y, Ketterer, Ketterer.
What was the ones that you just,
Listed on the
yeah,
agenda.
you were gonna change?
That, no, that's actually, that's,
bond counsel.
yeah, that's different.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a specialty, those are specialties, this is a general school type attorney, we did a bond issue or something like that, or.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Can we, I was just gonna say, can we talk about it after the meeting, so we can get the meeting on, and then we'll talk about it afterwards?
We have $3,000 to spend from our community dollars. Why can't you buy, pay for postage and send this out to all those parents? I check my mail every day. I don't have time to check anything else. I work full-time. My husband works 2 jobs. He's not here, he works night shift to survive. So why can't you send this out again and mail it to all of us? We're paying for it, nobody else is. It's coming out of our money. You could take $3,000 of our money. But you can't send it out so we all have some vote on it.
That's all we're
There
asking.
was no vote.
I'm sorry, you want us to send a survey?
No,
Yeah.
get a survey or
Is that what you're
just.
saying?
Yeah, they wanna do another poll, they want to do it.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you wanted us to send out, the
This
policy.
is not fair. I never even see it. My daughter did come home at the beginning of the school year and said, hey, the new superintendent and the new principals want to put a drug testing, into effect. And I said, well, we'll hear more about it. I never heard another thing again. And I've been to board meetings years ago and I learned not go because our voice don't count. And that's exactly what's happening. Our
Keep
voice
in mind,
don't
the
count.
last levy was passed by 25 votes. 21 people raised their hand against the school board that's now on this particular issue, so keep that in mind.
Well, I think it's important to know that we are always trying to do things to improve ways to communicate with people.
I
I
understand
mean,
that, but the postage
We've
stamp
done,
is
we've
not how
added
much.
Facebook, we've added like, the email, please put your, if you have an email account, please sign up for the email.
You get everything, you get more than you want.
Every time, yeah, you'll get tired of getting information on this thing, but I mean, that way we can get it to you. I don't know about emailing out a survey, I don't know how you, mailing out a survey, because then you gotta get it back, and somebody has to tabulate it and all that work.
I'll be the one, I'll do it.
So, I mean, we need to have, I think we've improved greatly with our communication, and we're always trying, but you hit the nail on the head. There's just, everybody's busy. I mean, everybody's just crazy busy, so I can agree with it.
But I'd be glad to send it out. I'll send it out, I'll even, they can even mail it back to my house. I would not mind. I think it's unfair that not have, many of us did not even know about this, other than are students saying, oh, they're trying to put drug testing into place. My kids don't do drugs, I'm not worried about it, but it's just, you took something away, you didn't even give me the opportunity to vote on this.
Well,
That's
to
not
that,
fair.
to the, I think that, and, you know, we have a book of policies that's literally this thick. And typically what we do with those policies, we come in, there's a reading, we have a first reading, the next month, we accept the policy. And that's done, I mean, that was done for literally probably 300-400 policies, probably, ballpark. I don't know, somewhere between 100 and 1,000, and I think it's closer to 1,000 than there is 100. With this policy, we did, I mean, we had preliminary meetings, we had the drug company come in before we ever voted or even wrote a policy. We had a preliminary policy written that was sent out to us. Oh, and then we did things like adding the opt-in language, adding the no penalty on the first time. There was a couple other things that were in there that we changed and added to try to make it more kid-friendly, not punitive kind of thing. So, I mean, to you, it may look like, or you may think that we didn't get any input, but I would say we got more input on this one policy than we did on the other 1,000 put together. And that's just, I mean, you get the policies, and it's been going on for 25 years now. That you get the policies, you have a first reading, now you know you have to have a first reading. Yes, now we
Taking
don't.
away our First Amendment right on all those other policies.
There's no, you know, that's one of the things that is a big misconception. This is the last thing I want to say, is we're not, you know, this policy and this ability to enact this procedure, this policy, drug testing in itself, has been ruled on by the Supreme Court. So I don't know, I mean, their job, their sole purpose in life at this point is to say what's constitutional and what isn't. I am not an attorney, I don't play one on TV, I don't ever want to be one, but it's not my job to question what they say is constitutional or not. That's their job. I don't, you know.
How often are your policies reviewed and updated?
As laws change, we do them as the Ohio Revised Code changes, we get updates from the attorneys and we adopt those. And every once in a while, if some state statute or change, or something changes in what's required of us, and we'll adopt a new policy.
So you don't annually or every 3 years review all of the
It's
policies?
a constantly ongoing.
It's constant.
Are you working on whatever you're gonna do, change the, contracts with the teachers and bus drivers to adapt drug policies? And
Bus drivers right now,
Because they have.
and the custodians and, or not, yeah, bus drivers have right now. But the custodians, the cafeteria workers are part of the same union, but they're not under that. And then the teachers are another union, and that has to come under there when we negotiate the contracts.
so are you gonna look at doing that when you negotiate the contract?
Well, I know, if I'm still on board, I am, and I know Diane said she was, so I can only answer for her.
And
As
my
long as they might lead from example, you start
Yeah.
there and work your way
One
down.
of the things
Going up.
that I would like to see us do, and we're still looking into, can we do it, is can we do a free employment protest?
Yeah.
So if we hire somebody to do whatever, well, that's,
That was shocking to me.
we want to have one. We would like, I personally would like to see that happen. And so that we can actually, you know, start that. And that's one of the things that we're trying to get to, is just that we have been,
Remember, it's not as, remember that they're going to the FBI.
Right.
Yeah, they have to do all the background checks and all that.
It's somebody else.
we're not going to stop
If
that.
they were arrested or something like that,
Professionals that have been through scrutiny that
yes,
few professions can cover.
right.
I mean, if you get any kind of felony, you cannot work in a school. I mean, so.
Anywhere near, anywhere.
That's nothing to do with drugs.
No, but I mean.
No, but we're just saying, it would come up on their.
Part of the
Because they already
presentation.
get that, we wouldn't know it. It's not the same thing.
Okay, thank you guys for letting us talk, so thank you.
Okay, so next month, if we can't, if you guys wanna come, if you want to.
Oh, we'll be here over and over and over.
But let's just shorten it, you know, because,
Try to, I think it'd be good if we funnel any questions we have,
and you can even
so
come,
we can get answers for them and get them, you know.
and some of these answers are you know, they're just, we can give you the answers. If you just wanna meet with even Madeline, that's fine too. We can do that, you
Can
know.
I make a statement? Will that be possible? I'll make it finish work.
Okay,
I apologize, I wasn't here, my son's over here last week,
okay.
and I was at the last meeting, I was in South East. Personally, I'm concerned about the possibilities of the test backfiring. The kids that more or less are probably doing drugs don't have the best family. You know, I've heard several times, I wish all parents were like so-and-so, whatever. Keep it up on what their kids are doing. And I'm concerned that the school wants to step into our parenting position and do these drug tests. I think that's a parent's decision. I would like the school to teach our kids about what's going on. That's what the school's for, is to educate our children. If there's a lot of these parents that want their children, the school to do their job, which I would do, I've told my kids, I think you're out to something, I'm drug testing. So, I don't know, is there that many parents that want to voluntarily have their children tested? To have that kind of a drug test in the school system? And I don't understand why it's just the high school either, because drugs tend to start in middle school.
I know.
So why couldn't we open it up, I mean, K through 12, you want your kid drug tested, opt in.
We originally started with an idea of a 7 through 12. And, we went to the 9 through 12 to start, and I mean, it's all possible. But this is an initial we're starting with, so, and I agree with you that the school should educate the children, and I've had people say that to me. And and what I've heard, from different children in the school is, you know, when there's a kid sitting in a class and he's laying down and he's sleeping, that's distracting to the class. If a kid smells like pot, that's distracting to the class.
Yeah, well.
So, I know and I agree with you, I mean, our job is to educate, but there are so many factors in educating that
There's a lot
child.
more distraction other than a kid sleeping or something.
I know, there are a lot. I mean, and so, I mean, you got a girl with a low top, so we try and stop that. You got kids with the pants down, we stop that. You know, it's a constant thing. So this is just one more thing, trying to make it about the education.
And then it was said that, you know, we should have came, I was in the process, I had a 2-page letter, we had a suicide. This is my biggest problem. I'm worried about the kids that possibly are on drugs. Possibly decide, I'm not playing, because my son told me about the bullying. I think bullying and depression is the biggest problem in our school, not drugs.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a couple parents that said they know that they were not doing drugs, and when they went to do their drug test for a job, they were nervous. I don't think these kids need that. I'm concerned about the depression, the anxiety, the bullying in the school more than drugs. If you find out, I know what you do as far as the kids that are showing up with drugs. I know one.
Well, we also have a bullying policy. We also have.
Yeah, but you know what I've heard.
No, I know. But I'm saying, a lot of parents will say, it's, you know, the teachers should notice this, the teachers should notice this, and I think I have some teachers here that would say their job is also to educate the children. Right. That we, you know, and to train the teachers to notice if someone is, on drugs. Well, you know, then they're gonna put it back on us again.
No, then you turn around, you
But I'm
go
saying
to your counselor, and you ask the counselor to contact the parents and say,
Right.
this is what we're seeing.
All I'm saying
It's
is-
on the parents to take care of that.
Right, there's just so many aspects of what goes on within the walls of this school. There are so many aspects, and we're
Right, and I
trying to
don't
reach
think
all of
drugs
them to get to the kids so that they can be educated.
against the
That
parents'
is-
will you know, I've heard many times a lot of hypocritical comments about drugs. I've heard several times if it says, what happens if it costs a month? That's my biggest fear of the whole thing. What happens if this backfires and it costs 3 months? What happens if it turns around and throws somebody further into drugs?
Or a board member quits.
It had nothing to do with the drug policy.
No, I know, I spoke with him. I spoke with him what happened, so. I
I feel
wasn't
like
here,
you're
I'm
targeting
glad I
the
was
wrong-
here. I planned on being here, I was in the Southeast with my son. My biggest thing is, okay, you've got a lot of parents, and I don't understand why there's not more surveys given to these kids and asking these kids, what do you think is the biggest problem in school? How do you think we can, what do you think is gonna be the ramifications of it? I've heard a lot of things from my son, of the ramifications in a negative way, in a positive way. That's why I said, I hope this works, I really do. If this is what you guys decide to do, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm here to tell you, I have a lot of fears of this. Well, I think it's jumping in to our house and parenting when you should be educating. You're going against parents' wills. And I think that's the biggest beef we have in here. And when you say, well, we've had it out, this and that, well, I understand the issue of trying to get the word out to all parents. Not everybody reads their mail, not everybody needs to read their emails, I don't get a paper. I just happened to listen to NIR and got beefed up about a favoritism thing that happened in the school. I will not bring up, I'm still furious about. And I have seen a lot, I've heard from my son, the favoritism in the school, like, I get really upset about it. I've heard of too many fights where the kid, I don't know whether it's their parents work here, whether they're prominent in it, but it's the kid that had finally said, enough is enough, I'm fighting back, and they're the ones expelled out of this school. That's
I wonder, ma'am, if we get back to Robert's Rules of Order.
I apologize.
Everybody here agrees with you. We beat
Yeah.
this to death for over an hour. and
I
you're
know,
absolutely
I
right.
wasn't here.
We
No,
just don't have
I mean,
time.
really, if you want to, I was gonna say, you want to read your letter, and Matt has his.
I erased it, because after,
So what I'm
like I
saying
said,
is,
that
if you want to sit down, and I'm glad to sit down with you, and Matt, I mean, we can meet with, you know.
I was hoping this was over.
Yeah, but,
I was hoping this was
but
over.
I'm just saying, all the things you're talking about are very important. So it's not like we're not gonna listen to them, but.
Yeah, I know, I'm spending more time.
Yeah,
than I
Paul's
should.
right, but I mean, we have the time, I mean, I don't remember what the day is. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a Tuesday sometime,
Yeah, but also, if not, you can always, you know, and I can come to the office and we can sit down.
Okay.
But all of that's important, it's not that it's not important, okay? Okay,
sorry.
no, that's fine. All right, okay, yeah, okay.
I used to be happy that you were involved.
Oh my God, I just got all together.
No, we don't like to recognize visitors first.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna, we're gonna be on the
No, I think you called. I'm sorry, you called me. I'm sorry.
Okay. And I know I already did the budget report. Can we, is there a way to do the accommodations beforehand? Before the visitors' time? We can do that? Okay.
Take it out of the board meeting. We
Right.
put it before, we were gonna put it ahead of recognition of visitors. Which you
Okay.
did, but we'll just write it. So
Okay.
they don't know.
Okay,
Lisa. Todd and I, we wanted to do roll call, just in case we missed it,
okay.
because, you know,
But Diane would.
and for the record,
I'm gonna note that Diane was
you
here.
did roll.
We did it twice.
Did we do it? I thought we did.
I thought we did.
I'm 100% sure. I hate to miss it by watching.
Actually, I want to say they did it 3 times, but.
Okay.
Okay, are you okay with it? You want to do it? I don't care, whatever you guys do. All right,
It's your phone.
you want to do roll call?
I have it written down.
If you said, I have it written down.
You got it written down, then I'm good. Okay, superintendent's report.
Okay, so we have two things under superintendent's report. The first one will be a presentation by Don Riley and Terry Campbell, and they're going to talk about different variations in communication.
Yes, thank you.
They're going to talk about a program that we're running in the elementary, the Love and Literacy Program. And I had an opportunity to go and sit and see what it was all about. It had to be November, I believe. And I was very impressed. And since it's a new program for the district, I thought it would be nice if they talk a little bit about it, just so we were better informed about what's happening in the buildings.
You guys mind going up to the podium, so you can be on camera?
No, I can't.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hard act to follow.
This is about academics. And what we have been doing, this is Ms. Riley and I'm Mrs. Campella, and we started a new literacy program with our students this year. And how it works, it's called Fontes-Pinel Leveled Literacy Intervention. Okay, so level means that the students are put at their level. Literacy are all the different aspects of reading and literature. And intervention is where we come in and we hope to change the students' reading abilities. We started at the beginning of the year with, we give a star reading test to all the students. So we took the students who were in 2 different classifications. They were either urgent intervention or in need of intervention. And through this program then, you are able to individually test those students, find out exactly where they belong, take those groups then and start working with them. And if you want to explain a little bit about how we did that.
Okay, we got, it's the benchmarks for the level literacy. And what we did was we had a word list and we had the students go through the word list. And that kind of determined where to start them on the level, to test them to see where their level of instruction was. So for example, if we started them on an E, okay, this is one of the benchmarks, we have books inside the folder, and we have, it's nonfiction and a fiction book for each folder. So they can read a nonfiction book and a fiction book. And then we have a timer, and it's actually like a really neat calculator, but it tells you everything, like their running words, and it calculates everything and tells you what their score is. And then upon that, you determine whether they need to go up a level or go down a level. So, and in here also is their testing that we do. So they read the book and then we have the form in front of us. And then as they're reading, we mark what their errors are, if they self-correct a word. And then at the end, there are comprehension questions that we go through and we ask the child certain questions pertaining to the story that they had just read. So there's prompts for the teachers, and with these prompts, then you're looking at the key understandings for the child of how they should be answering it according to the prompts that you give the child. So, and that's what, this was an E. So if they did okay on E, then you'd move up to an F. And then if they did okay with an F, then you just keep moving up until you find their instructional level. And then that's where you start them out with the whole program, as far as that goes.
One of the best things about this program, it was expensive, and so but you are getting so much for your money. This program it's just phenomenal. I really hope that we can carry it over into the entire elementary school. So the kids in the regular classroom, because we only supplement, don't forget, what the classroom teacher is doing is number one. We are just supplementing and helping with the students that are at the lower end of the spectrum in their classrooms. But this program is available for the regular classroom teachers to use as well.
This is K through, well, we work with K through 4.
We actually see 8, there are 3 of us, Mrs. Flexsteiner is not here tonight. We have 8 groups each, so we see 60 students per day, and we see them for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So that's 150 minutes of very small group, very intense instruction. Title reading before was, and it's through no one's fault, the same as everywhere. It was just kind of, okay, today we'll work on vowels, we'll work on comprehension, we'll do this, we'll do that. This is all built right into the program. And then you can just work through the system. As you're working with the children, if they're doing fine, you can boot them up. If they're having trouble, you can keep them at that level or move them down. So it's really important to have them at what we call an instructional level. And that's the nice thing, is every other day, every other book is instructional, where you are teaching, so a little bit above where you absolutely know what you're doing. And then the next day, you back up to what we call an independent level, where it's easy, and they think, wow, I'm really doing good. And they don't really know the difference. But that increases their confidence, it increases their fluency, how they sound when they read, and it just really works well. And that is the best thing about this program. You were talking, it's so book-oriented. We presently have 5 different levels, K through 4, and that covers 600 books. We have 600 different books to teach the students with and to move them through. And it's all about books. They always have a book. They reread the book from the day before. It's, then we start the new book. We do word activity, we do vocabulary activities, we do writing activities. So it incorporates everything that has to do with the reading process. But show them some of the books. I mean, and they're really nice news stories, and there's nothing better for that kid than to just, I've got a book, I read this book, and they can keep track, and we have a new book today, and it's really fun, exciting, they like coming, because they're in the small groups, they get a lot of, small group attention, and it's so easy to keep track of where they're at. So right where they are, where they need to go, whether it's up or down. And I want to thank you for buying this program. I'm actually retired from teaching, but I've come back. And I am so excited to see this in the schools, because it is absolutely now, especially with the 3rd grade guarantee and the way things are going. And we kind of went backwards with this program this year. Before, in title, I think kind of hit kids younger. Where this year, we started with we have more like 3rd graders, 2nd graders, 1st graders. We kind of went backwards, but that's okay. For right now, I think that's how it needs to work. And it's just wonderful. And you are more than welcome to come anytime and see it. And this is something very positive and very educational and very academic that's happening in your schools.
Question, do you target all the kids in, say, the 1st grade? Say if there's 30 in a class, would you do that?
They start with, every student takes the same test. It's called the STAR reading test. So then we get a report back from that, and it tells which kids are at risk the most, and then it's a prioritized list.
Next question, since you target the reading kids, or the kids in reading, do they target any kids with math problems?
This is strictly reading.
I mean, is there any help? I mean, since you're doing tutoring, you get the other subjects that the kids would be weak.
Not in this program. This is strictly a reading. Yes, but that would be something that hopefully someday we would be able to address also.
In the past years, we have switched back and forth with reading and math help. But now with this new program, it's a very intense program. And we work in smaller groups with the kids. In the past, we could take kids from, 5 kids in a group up to 8 kids in a group. This program is geared towards only having 3 students in a group. So you're targeting, it's very intense. They come in, they're reading, they're writing, they're doing comprehension, they're doing word work with letters and spelling. So it's a very intense, and that's what, with the 3 title tutors right now, we're targeting on the reading. And also with the 3rd grade guarantee, that's why we started with 3rd grade. And then we started working our way down.
And it's really, really neat, to see their progress. They can graduate from the program. I mean, because there are levels, a certain level that they should obtain at each grade level. There's certain places they should be. So we've actually had kids that just needed that little extra boost, or like the first time we gave that test was like at the very beginning of the year. So the kids came in, I mean, how many kids really read a whole lot over the summer? I mean, a great deal don't. But we will be giving that again, then I think we started this week and into next week. And then the same test will be given in the spring. It's just totally different now than when we went to school, or how I taught even 10 years ago. And it's all standards based. It's already aligned with all that. So it's really, really the best bang for the buck.
And also, like with 3rd grade, with the state testing, our groups are always changing. Especially on the 3rd grade level. because we're getting those star reading scores back. We got the OAAs back, and they had taken their fall testing. So then our groups, we had to juggle around students, and our groups had changed again. So, and we also had students that had actually tested out of the program, and that allowed us to bring more students in to the first program.
So it is possible, you can either stay longer if you need to, or, move on if you don't. So it's really, really nice. Any other questions? Come and see us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think the exciting part is the sheer amount of organization that it takes. As the lady was saying, every 30 minutes, you have a change in groups. So to be meticulously organized where you can have that, literally, I was sitting there and there was a change of students coming in and they knew which table to go to, they had the files ready, and there wasn't a break in instruction. And that doesn't happen on accident. So I want to thank you both and Jen as well. They're really doing a phenomenal job. You guys have any questions? The second thing I have is a school safety grant. I put this in updates, but I just wanted to say it publicly and revisit it. House Bill 59 in June of last year established a school security grant program. And this is administered through the Ohio School Facilities Commission. And they offered grants for $2,000 for one grants for up to $2,000 for one emergency communication system. They call it the MARPS system, Multi-Agency Radio Communication Systems, or MARPS. There was actually two parts to the grant. One was door safety, where they have the buzzer systems. If you didn't have those, you could put those in. And you could go 6 months in the past. So if you had it from January 1 of 2013, if you did it any time in that window, you could get reimbursed. We did it the year before, so that didn't help us. The second part of the grant was these MARPS radios. And what they are is, if you notice in, maybe you heard on the news, when you have catastrophes at schools, the cell phone towers tend to go down. And the landlines actually go down as well, where they cannot communicate with the police department via that mode of communication. The MARPS radios are a way to communicate with the police department directly. It's literally a radio system, so you don't have a break in communication. Mrs. Shaver, the middle school counselor, went to learn more about the grant itself and how Portage County Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff Doak, were going to implement this. And then Mrs. Sandell took it upon herself to apply for the grants. She applied for a grant for each building, elementary, middle school, and high school. And we found out last month that we were awarded all 3 radios. So we will have a MARPS radio in elementary, middle school, and high school. I think that's really fantastic that we were able to do that. And I really am grateful that Mrs. Sandell and Mrs. Shaver helped me through that process. Here's the caveat. The caveat is that the grant money doesn't cover the radio for the sheriff's office. So there's the blank, or the gotcha kind of thing. Fortunately enough, I have been in communications with the Lions Club in Randolph, and they are looking at sponsoring the purchase of a radio for the sheriff's department to make sure that our radios are working. If you know about the Lions Club in the community, they're always looking for opportunities to get back, and this is something that they're very passionate about. I haven't heard they haven't had a final vote on it. It's supposed to happen this week, but that cold weather kept a lot of us at home earlier in the week, if you remember. So once that, if they decide to move in that direction and it does come to fruition, I would be happy to report that, and I think we'll have a meeting so we can express that exciting opportunity.
Is that grant available for all the schools?
Yes.
Well, wouldn't that radio be the same for Woodstown or anybody else? Or maybe get a couple schools going on at the sheriff's office?
I don't think so. I think that it's a one channel.
Individual to each district.
So you have to have a different receptor for each district. So right now, my worry is that I'm hoping we can wire all 3 of them, elementary, middle school, and high school, to the one base at the sheriff's department. If we can't, we'll probably just get one at the sheriff's department and utilize one of those three for those. I guess we're fortunate to do that because we're a campus setting. If we can get them to get wired into the same base as the sheriff's department, I just think that makes us all the more safe because we have one or three of them throughout the campus. So I was excited about that, and I think Mrs. Sandell and Mrs. Shaver appreciate that.
Is that shortwave radio?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Has anyone ever contacted the Portage County Amateur Radio Club? Those, I know, I was just thinking of that when realizing it's shortwave radio. My husband, who is a ham radio operator, I just wonder if they would maybe have something.
I don't know, but I want to talk about that because it sounds like if they have extras, I want them.
Oh, well, that's what, they also do community, yes, yes, the sheriff's department, that's what I mean in that sense of the sheriff's department of that.
We haven't, and I want to know more about it. I didn't even know that existed.
Okay.
Roy Cray has enough towers in his house.
I was gonna say, if we could,
Just operate it out of Roy's.
Yeah, just operate it out.
Thank you, Mrs. Green.
Towers there.
Please advise that.
It was a tinfoil hat. So,
That's all I have for this.
Okay, thank you. Todd, any report?
Yeah, first of all, we need to add to the consent agenda.
Okay.
If you have an addendum sitting before you, we need to add those addendum items to the consent agenda on the superintendent's business. Items F, G, and H. Okay, I also laid a packet out in front of you for this evening, Waterloo Local School District, concerning the stadium improvement project fund. As you recall, a couple months ago, I see Mr. Rossi still here?
Yeah.
See, if you want to jump in, feel free to, Mr. Rossi. As you recall, Mr. Rossi came to present to the board a few months ago concerning the stadium facility improvement fund. I know Mr. Rossi has been working hard in the last year or so trying to secure funding to put in an on-weather track up at the stadium. As he expressed a few months ago, he feels like he's reached the point where, he was looking for some commitment from the board monetarily to help jumpstart that program. I don't know what the success has been per se with him contacting the individuals that he's had. However, his feeling was that without some commitment from the board, he didn't feel like his efforts would really produce that much more than what he has already. So at that point in time, the board posed to Mr. Montgomery and myself what the possibility would be if maybe a small bond issue for the voters, just for the purpose of a stadium improvement fund. So what you have in front of you tonight are the numbers that were presented to you a couple meetings ago. The first page incorporates a new national turf, drainage, irrigation, underground storm chambers, storm sewers, the all-weather 8-lane track, blocks, plazas, fences, and gates, and some other items there for a total project cost of roughly $1.5 million. What we have looked at is to fund a project, and that dollar amount would be over a 15-year period. The approximate millage rate to do that would be 0.84 mil, so less than a mil for a 15-year period would improve the stadium facility complex by the items that are listed. Then also was presented in that meeting also was an additional scope of work. So the things that were mentioned previously, as well as if we wanted to incorporate new bleachers in the press box, concessions, upgraded sound system, scoreboard, and other miscellaneous there, that would take the project cost up to $4.6 million. You'll see on the following page. For that project, that scope of work for 30 years would require a millage rate of approximately 1.72 mils. So again, these are rough preliminary numbers. One based on the scope that the architectural firm put forth with their best numbers, as well as information we received from Ross Sinclair and Associates based on our current valuation, what those millage rates would be for those two different schools. So if it's something that you're interested in, want to think about it, something that you're interested in, Mr. Montgomery or myself, we can follow up and maybe, firm numbers, firm scope of the project up. But there might be something in here that you're looking at that, you might want to change the scope of the project. Either add or detract from which we change things. But it's a starting point. We directed Mr. Montgomery and myself to do that and bring this forward at this time.
And thank you guys and Frank for putting this together. I do have a question with new natural turf. I believe that is grass.
I believe that is grass.
Okay. Yes, I just wanted to make sure because I know at one point we talked about artificial turf and I learned a little bit about artificial turf. But initially I thought, oh, that would be just great. But talked to probably 10 vendors down at Capitol Conference in November on artificial turf, and its life expectancy is 15 years. And they gave us some ballparks. They said it'd probably be close to $1 million to do the artificial turf of a typical football field. It's just a ballpark number, maybe 1.1 or maybe 900, but it's still an awful lot of money. And to me, that was, it's like, well, that'd be okay if that's like a lifetime, but that's in 15 years, you gotta do something with it. And the other thing I asked, then I started asking about natural turf and taking care of it. And they said that if you put about 15 to 20 grand a year in a new grass field or natural turf, as they call it here, they would, then you would expect it should last. Making, fertilizing it, fixing any places that were damaged during the year, those kind of things. If you spend that money every year to keep it up, you don't get into the situation you kind of are in now. So I personally, I wanted to, number one, make sure that I was reading this right, that it is grass, and make sure everybody else understood it. Is that what you understood, Frank, as grass?
Yes.
Okay.
When I looked at this, it was not for a pasture, it was for grass.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page.
Yeah, because I think there were some questions about why they would do that, and there wasn't a problem with that. Why wouldn't they start the track in like the press box, because, they're older. And they said they had to do that first because you wouldn't want them going over it to redo it. But, just a quick question, whenever they came up with this, did they come and look at what we had?
We had the architect with Bill on several occasions throughout. They're the same ones that came up with the design for this campus. So they've been out multiple times for the last 6, 7, 8 years they've been on site.
All right.
I think we need to figure out if we want to move forward with trying to pass a bond issue to cover this. I mean, as we talked about a month or two ago, Frank, to say that for us to come up with, I mean, we might be able to find a couple $1,000 to help with the program because we were trying to, Frank's, those guys, his group's been trying to do it for donations. For us to try to, we could give a little bit, but we just don't have it. So I think the only way anything like this is ever going to happen is if we put a bond issue on and see if people want to support it financially. So I don't know if we need to get together a subcommittee with some people, to make that decision on how we want to go. I mean, I guess I'm asking for what do you guys think as far as how we should proceed with this, so we can decide.
Well, the way it's written is so you're saying we could get a group together and to see what's most important, what isn't most important, or?
And we need to figure out, is it something we really want to do with the bond issue? The only way we can do it with the bond issue, my big concern, and I'll lay it out there right off the bat, is my big concern is that, let's see what everybody else thinks and what maybe the committee thinks, is that, if we pass let's just take the big enchilada, 1.7 mil levy or bond issue now, in 4 years, we're gonna need additional money operating funds. So we don't want to have a nice new stadium and facility out there, but then not have the ability to do what we need to do, the core of our existence here is educate and start to for the future. So that's something we have to kind of take into consideration. I don't know the best way to get that kind of data, that kind of information.
Well, I guess my thoughts are, and I've talked with a couple people about, that have said they've heard the rumor that, we were gonna be looking at that, price we did athletic boosters or whatever. And their comment was, well, if you put it out there and it passes, then the people want that. It doesn't, it's a separate issue totally from the way, the school and the operating expenses. If they want it, then they'll vote for it. If they don't want it, then they'll vote for it. So it puts it all back on the people. There's, we don't have any control over that. All we have control over is getting what is gonna work up here. So, and I agree with that. I mean, I guess we have to decide if we want the whole shebang or half, but would it work like the PI levy where the monies are just, they can't be used for anything else but the stadium, right?
Correct, the money would be earmarked, the bonds would be just for the construction cost itself. Then those monies would be collected, in the amount needed to pay back the amortization schedule for the length of time.
And to put this on, what's next,
No, it'd be November.
It'd be November.
We're past, we'd be past
I
that.
don't think we want to do
Yeah,
that.
it'd be the most cost.
In my mind.
so we would be looking at, we got to make a decision by July.
I have
Of which one we
timelines
wanna do?
that we have to have submitted to the board of
Okay.
elections, and I can forward that to the board.
So we have 6 months that we could do
Get
that.
together and see, have we collected any money yet, Frank, for donations? Or
Well, there's a small amount of money in the thing.
do you know that?
We kind of have been waiting to see what you're gonna do. I mean, Mrs. Sarson and myself, we have a program that we're gonna try to raise money. But I don't wanna go out and raise $30,000 and it's gonna sit there, because the people we're gonna ask to donate are gonna say, well, you got $30,000 of my money, but you're not moving anywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't have to then give it back, or try to give it back. I wanna see if he really wants to do it or they don't wanna do it.
Well, that'd be,
And I think that's what,
yeah.
If they don't wanna do it, there's no sense in her and I killing ourselves to go out and try to raise $100,000.
I personally think it's something I'd like to pursue to see if we, that's my.
Well, I think that's the only way to do it. To let people talk. If they want to do it, then they can do it. That's their choice.
And I personally think that we only have one shot to do it, we might as well try to do it with the second, I would rather, off the top of my head, without thinking about it, in great length, I think we would want to go for the full, to the 1.72 or 1.75. That's my own personal thing.
I can't even comprehend those numbers. It's going to take a lot of sense.
So you're talking about putting new stands and everything?
I mean, our press box, right now, if you look at it, our press box, it's got a limited life left on it. Our bleachers some of our bleachers may or may not meet the latest codes on.
They probably don't,
May or may not, but heavy on the may not, because of things that keep changing, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, if we were going to do it, I think we would do it. To me, I would go all in if I was going to go in. That's my personal. What I would do, I would support either one. My choice would be to go all in.
Can I ask you a question?
Meet separately with Frank and another person or
Well, there's, so let's look at the larger scope. I mean, so they state the scope there, but like, when they state the scope, the build house, and they listed the dimensions, I think those should probably be discussed further with not me, I'm not in the sports, so I don't know what's added for the build house, what is not. So those should be looked at probably with maybe, a committee set up on the board to establish, is this so bad? Maybe we need to work with the architect.
Well, or to go to some other schools that have that to see if that's what is decided. If it's like the school,
Right.
that's what
That would
we
be part of
need.
what the committee would
Right.
And I think that we,
But we need to do this,
with Architectural Vision Group, I wonder if they would do some preliminary drawings for us without, just.
I'm sure ADG would be more than glad to do some drawing.
Can I ask you a question? Let's say that, and we have estimates here, correct?
I'm sorry?
yes,
I mean, we have an estimate of,
right,
from the architect, what it's gonna cost.
Yes.
But the actual cost is gonna depend on bidding, am I right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So we could actually come underneath that as a possibility of bidding.
Yes.
That's all I'm wondering.
Yeah, this is just like an architect looking at it and use where it costs per square dollar per square foot estimating. So that's the.
Because one of the people that she talked to thought that they could do it for less than what the bid was.
well, and also, I mean, Frank, what was it?
And there's somebody
I
that's
would
done
say
a couple
8
places.
years ago, where we had people in the community that are more than capable of
Doing
hauling
something.
dirt
Yes.
and digging and bringing in rock and all that were more than willing to provide their services.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one good time that we live in the country, everyone's got either a backhoe or a truck or a, whatever. So, I mean, that's one good thing about being here, we have a community that's willing to help. So, I mean, so that kind of stuff would actually bring the cost down probably quite a bit. So, so that's another thing that committee could look at.
That's how the field got built up there. I remember
Mhm.
Saturdays with Bob Pugh and Rawhide and Doc Jenkins and the whole Frank and
How
all
much
the
is
people,
their,
all the teachers in the football field, starting the football team.
how much of their quote was architectural?
It's usually a percentage of the project.
I think it's including soft costs,
Yeah,
which is the AEC, permanent legal, construction testing, surveying, soil borings.
Et cetera, 200,000.
Structure management, all that stuff.
That's the lower number. That's lower, that's the soft cost. 600,000, 15%. Again, it'd be based on the final numbers.
Can I say something? It's just making me laugh.
you can bring your truck.
No, just sitting here listening to this. It sounds great. Ron says, let's form a subcommittee to talk about this. Why don't we form a subcommittee to talk about the road test? Does anybody agree with that? Yeah.
Well,
You know, you'll do it for the sports, you'll do it for this, but you won't hold people. You know,
that's a really good thing. That's,
no, it's just funny sitting here listening. You don't even, it's not logical.
well, but this is something someone brought forward, just like you guys brought forward what you did, and we looked into it.
Oh, I know,
It's how we
no,
do
I
it.
think it's a great idea, but
Yeah.
I'm missing the point.
No, I'm not missing the point, I got what you're
Let's
saying.
form a subcommittee and talk about it.
But that's already a policy.
Well, it don't need to be implemented.
We're already.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. Anyway, okay.
Go.
Okay, so what do we need to do if we want to do that?
If the board wants to pull.
Well, we have probably two board members. Let's see, maybe next, well, we can wait until we get.
Can I make a suggestion that the athletic director be a part of this committee?
Oh, I would think we want to have, we can talk about who we are, I think with two board members, these two gentlemen, the athletic director, I would say Mr. Ross, we would love to have.
We might also seek businessmen from the community.
You know,
What you might wanna do too is see what the actual architectural cost is, not all the soft costs, but maybe your 30,000 that you think you might be able to collect. Get the architectural drawings and then bid it out to the community and not necessarily go with this, get your bids. I'm sure
So
they're
bring
gonna be less than $4 million.
Oh, I'm sure.
So maybe you use your money that you're collecting now towards the architectural plan, doesn't mean that architectural plan has to happen this year, could happen next year.
Yeah.
And then your donations wouldn't be wasted.
Well, and I think the architect will, well, he's not going to prepare the whole drawings and specs and all that stuff, but I think that we can get them to provide drawings, layout, rough drawings, sketches, that kind of stuff, based on, they were the same architects who did this for the building, they were not cheap. They were very, and they may do, I think they'll do it up front before we, that would be one thing we try to get them to do, at least make some sketches and give us some ideas of what the layouts of the field house and the concession stand and stuff.
All right. Lance, going to the nomination for Maplewood, but they have their organizational meeting tonight also. Taking anything from legislation?
Just briefly, House Bill 193 is coming up for a vote in the full House. There's 27 different amendments that have been added to this. If you have an opportunity, go on Bill Tracker and take a look at it. It's out of committee, so it'll be up shortly. Presently, there's 84 bills being monitored, 5 enacted for this year, for the 13-14 year that we've been on assembly. So with the holidays, things have been slow, they're just ramping back up as we speak.
Just to add, I met with Senator Ekman on Monday for coffee, and we talked through, it was kind enough to give me about an hour this time, and we hit 193 and a couple other prominent bills. He was very receptive, took notes, he was very willing to listen. He was learning from the practitioner's perspective instead of just the lobbyists, because that helps solidify what the lobbyists are saying. I also have a meeting with a representative from Sheriff Brown's office next Friday, and somebody from Tim Ryan's office is scheduling something to try to advocate for some of the other things as well.
Anybody have anything under other business?
I think this might be the appropriate time to talk a little bit about some of the questions that we had previously, the answers that we got back, and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that's pretty important to do, and we are,
I think we should talk about the, I mean, you guys mentioned that you wanted to talk about the record keeping time frame.
Yes.
Because that was one of the questions that was posed. So the attorneys are saying that the policy provides, the policy provides the records are to be destroyed after 5 years. Court cases have looked up to the confidentiality portions of policy to determine whether the policy is confidential. There is no bright line for keeping records, but the destroying language gives assurances that the record will not follow the student. The destruction date also ensures the record will be destroyed, as the record is kept separate from the student's academic record. There may be another fear that the record is kept. In reviewing other policies, many did not have a date to destroy the record, but some did. The fear is that the ambiguity would not establish a clear date for destruction, or more problematically, accidentally be preserved. Other policies, such as Southeastern Local, keep the records for 7 years. No policy is necessarily correct, but it comes down to choice. Waterloo can change the policy accordingly. So that gives us the leeway, based on, someone posed that question, why do we have it for 5 years? That's the rationale behind it, but they are giving us the legal advice that we can change it however you deem fit.
I personally would like to see it, when the student graduates, the records are destroyed.
I agree.
So if we look at, did I give you a copy of the policy?
I have.
I thought I put on the desk. So if you look at page, I gave you a whole bunch of stuff. It should be page 3, but I double-sided your, but still, just count the double-sided. Page 3, confidentiality process. The last sentence says records of drug testing will be destroyed 5 years following the test completion. So we would have to change that language. So it could read records of drug testing will be destroyed upon students' graduation. Whatever you think.
I think that's fine. I mean, do you guys agree?
Mr. Fletcher?
Are we saying it destroyed upon graduation?
I would say within 3 months following graduation. That gives us time to administrate that over the course of the summer. Graduation is usually in May. So it gives us,
We need to administrate.
So he's
Some-
saying additional, if we say upon graduation and I'm not shredding things on Sunday of graduation, we don't want to be locked into that date, I didn't think that.
2 months is a long time.
So you could say, whatever it is, we give you a little leeway.
That's either or, 30 days, a month, 2 months.
What about somebody that is graduated, just on that?
Or withdraw from school.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair, that makes sense.
So we're going with 2 months?
No, I don't think I need too much, I think month would be the max.
How about 30 days?
Okay, that'll go. So records of drug testing will be destroyed 30 days following either graduation or withdrawal from school. Is that okay? Withdrawal of student. Student withdrawal or student.
Yeah, but, okay, there's a question. Let's say they're a sophomore and they withdraw from school, and then they come back their senior year.
Start over.
Yeah, that's
Sign
right.
the drug
It's gonna be,
paper.
it's gonna be a year anyways, Lisa, so I don't think that.
Oh, that's right, they have to sign it here. Okay, sorry. Okay,
30
got it.
days following graduation or student withdrawal. Mr. Carpenter, you were in the.
Well, we do the 2 of us.
Well, okay, we got after the years, so student back. Okay, another question was posed about pay to participate for this year. What would you like to do for those students who they're removed from the program, but they have already paid for this year? My advice would be, I think we should refund the money back for this year only. Next year, they'll know, I mean,
We're talking about pay participation.
yeah, pay participation.
I think,
No, really,
I think, yeah, this year, if the parents are not comfortable and don't sign the consent form, we would give the money back. We
Same
would
thing
refund
same thing with parking passes.
the parking passes.
Give the money back.
Now, yeah, but, you know, once they sign the form, we're back to.
Yeah, but they didn't, so let's make it clear though, if this, so we're making this change tonight. And I told you the vast majority of people signed it, 200 of those 4 people, maybe. If they learn about this and then come to the high school office and say that they have since changed their mind because they want to run a refund, I think that we should honor that. Is that okay?
So we don't have to write that in any of this.
No, that doesn't fall in the policy.
That's just a procedure.
Yeah, that's just-
We don't even need to vote on it. We need to vote on the policy, any policy changes, but procedurally, we don't need to vote on the refund.
That's just,
What
you are directing us direction.
Do we have to vote on this next time?
If we're gonna
You do have to make that motion. so you-
Yes, we did.
Well, is there anything else we need to talk
Well,
about?
I mean, the other questions, were, let me see if I have them.
I don't think anything else was something that we.
I don't think any of the voting, so it's maybe test uncompetitive extracurriculars. And
Found
we've got,
already changed, I think it was more.
and we've got an explanation on that.
That stuff's more informational than it is
Right.
something.
But then also, grant money from the Department of Education, drinking fluid. Now, drinking fluid from the drug company, there was a question that was posed, asking, what if they can't produce a specimen? So I got clarification from Kyle at Great Lakes. And Kyle said that the question of reasonable amount of time, they quantified reasonable amount of time as 1 to 2 hours. And that's with them providing the student liquid, so either Gatorade or water. The attorneys advised not putting that in the policy itself, but the company that's running it gave us their procedures.
That's part of the procedures.
That's their procedures, and I will provide the parent,
We're going by, yeah.
I'll provide the parent who asked the questions, that written documentation that says that's what they provided us with on asking that question. The question of chain of custody. So the attorneys, this is what the attorney says. Because the question was the fourth issue is chain of custody. The policy does not indicate that the test will be at Waterloo. I assume from my readings that they will be at Waterloo and the students will be given the test on site. That's true, so that they will be on site here. They don't have to go to us. If positive, the specimen will be taken back to the lab for confirming chromatography, mass spectrometry test will be occurring. These assumptions are from my readings, but none mentioned in the policy. All the policy says the student will watch the collector screw and cap tightly. The chain of custody procedures are lost from that point forward. The policy then says if we want to challenge the results, then the student can have a split sample tested at the lab. What split sample, when is the procedure done, and what is the chain of custody? The attorneys noted the following. The policy mirrors chains of custody found in most other policies as is discussed above. Additional procedure steps after the sample is collected are decided by the vendor, not in the policy. Again, we defer to the vendor in deciding how the chain of custody should be determined. We did not draft this, and we do not want to draft an arbitrary chain of custody that did not reflect the vendor's own procedures. It may be advantageous for the vendor's chain of custody to be added to the policy. This should be discussed with the vendor. So Kyle gave me the chain of custody. He said, we do an initial screening test, the immunoassay at the school. The chain starts with the student being given a number cup and signed back in with that same number cup. If there's a non-negative result on the test, the specimen is split and sent to a certified lab for confirmation. The chain of custody is completed by the designated school personnel with the Great Lakes technician. The designated school personnel act as the in loco parentis. An underage child signing the chain would not be any more valid. That's their take on the chain of custody. Now, our attorney's saying we can add that in if we would like, so we can get clear language from him, or we have the language right here from him, the procedure that Kyle described, if you're okay with just that procedure.
Is it labeled with a name?
It says a numbered cup, and the student assigned a number. So we do initial screen test, the chain starts with the student being given a numbered cup and signs back in with that same numbered cup.
Yeah, right.
And the student is watching them screw the cap on, that's all.
That's what it's out.
Who is matching the number that the person signs
The
in
vendor.
with the number on the cup?
The
The
vendor.
student doesn't see that number?
He didn't say that they didn't, but I would say that the student signed in with the number.
Very disturbing to me that there can be very many accidents that happen. It happens daily. You don't want to think that it can happen, but it does happen with mislabels.
I'm assuming, but I can find that clarification after they see the numbers that are on there to confirm that themselves, because they are turning in the number that they were given. So if you're given 4, you're turning back in 4, and then you're seeing them screw.
Can we just add it?
I'd be happy to ask.
Just say the student sees them screwing the number on and verifies the
Right.
When I have
it's on
my
that
test,
cup.
there's a packet.
We can.
I was signing all that packets, all my personal, and it's got these real tabs for a number. They pour the sample into,
Okay.
Rule.
in my case, they pour it into 2, and they seal each one's number. I actually initial the number, that is, it's all right there.
So you are initially the number that was on there.
That's when I have done it.
See, that's my question.
Self-work.
And I just like to Kyle that directly.
Yeah, it's like this one, it's got the full off tabs, that number matches the number on the form.
We'll check on it, we'll check on it.
And normally there's 2 forms of identification for use, not just a single one.
I will.
You mean on the bottom?
Like you're verifying 2 different identifiers. You may have heard something that you need.
You said it, you said it. You said it.
It's just, I like to buy it's just.
I'll double check that and give you your email before you leave, and I'll email it directly to you on email.
And then the split test, it said that there was, when it's sent out to, like, if there would be an appeal or there would be a positive result, that you would maybe potentially ask for a split sample to be sent. So they take what's left and they send it to another vendor. Who chooses that vendor? It's the policy of the principal does. So the policy says the principal chooses.
If that's what it says, we do not have that other vendor picked at this time.
Okay. And I guess I don't understand what.
I don't have a problem with the parent, to be perfectly honest. And
What makes the
let me,
principal qualified to.
let's check that, and then maybe that's something we can address for next month. Can you tell me what page, please?
I
Well,
know.
tell me, is it under reporting results?
The first positive result,
That's it,
Got
it's
it.
a paragraph above it. Okay. Stress was tested at a different testing laboratory approved by the principal.
Okay, so approved by doesn't mean selected by.
Okay.
So that's reading to me that you can pick the site, let the principal know, and as long as it's not the Gibson's confirmation. not that it's a Gibson, but I'm saying as long as it is a reputable,
Right, exactly.
professional area, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
I just say there'd be a certain comfort level if this was put into the policy, and it sounds like it's something that's doable.
Okay, tell me which part of
The whole chain of custody as you just described.
Okay, and we talked about that, the attorney said that's possible, so I have no problem with that.
So we just need to get the wording from him.
Yeah, the wording is not, it's in paragraph form and not in policy form. I have no problem asking Kyle to collaborate with the attorneys to make sure it's in the right format.
So,
If you guys don't do it,
yeah, I don't do anything, no.
because they're advising us
So
that.
we're leaving the word principal in here.
I know, but what Paul's talking about is saying that the chain of custody clarified.
Oh, my.
I think we're gonna change
We
that.
don't mean the word principal,
We can,
like not our principal,
we
right?
can change that
Yeah.
approved by the
Yeah.
superintendent.
Yeah.
We can change that.
And so I think we need to change that. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Approved by the, what do you want, make it superintendent?
Yeah, we'll say that because I'm gonna be the person that's the point of contact.
Wouldn't it be better to utilize designated official if that is?
Yeah, don't they use another word for that?
Designated official is the one person.
We don't actually say superintendent, we say designated official.
We can use that.
Okay, let's just make that. Okay?
So that's gonna be included in this motion,
Yeah.
to change that to designated official. We cannot include in the motion the language for chain of custody until we get that finalized.
We want to get Great Lakes Medical involved in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The-
Okay, and then,
That's what you were asking, right? I'm just confirming that that's what you were.
Yeah, the way your attorney addressed it sounds fine, as long as it's all spelled out, it sounds good.
Okay.
Just as a side note, about 5%, WebMD and Wikipedia.
Yeah, they addressed, Kyle addressed that.
Yeah, they do not see anywhere close to a 5-10%.
Kyle says that supposed false positives as referenced by WebMD or Wikipedia, we have multiple checks and balances to assure elimination of any possibility of a false positive. There is not a 5 to 10% positive rate. Everything will always fall on the side of the student. Remember, the purpose of the program is prevention, and it will only help students to say no to drugs, not to try to catch and punish students. That's what Kyle wrote, that's not my.
Well, can I say this, you know, my daughter signed a pledge that she wouldn't do drugs and alcohol. So if her word's no good, I don't think Kyle should be. We need to have these results somewhere, the independent source, verify the number of false positives, et cetera, somebody other than Kyle.
Okay, so you're saying.
He's got a stake in
We
this.
have company statistics essentially that are verified by an outside source.
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? I can ask to see if those are available.
I know they're tough to find, they really are.
I can ask. And I would say that
You may not have been the first person to ask for those.
if he wants our business out, he might need to try to make it happen.
Yeah.
They've been very,
We're very
I
cooperative.
mean, we're going to have, I mean, it's not even a contract, it's like,
It's an agreement.
if you don't like us, don't use
That's
us.
what, Joe, I think you asked that, if we assign a contract or not. We assign an agreement that we can back out of at any time. So they've been very cooperative, very understanding. I asked those questions, I don't know, I sat them and got the answers to all of the questions that were posed within 24 hours. So they've been trying to work with us. But I'll ask that as well, statistics that are confirmed on false positives. Okay.
Are we ready for motion?
well, and then you addressed earlier the HIPAA, the fact that all of our records are not available to any court of,
Yeah, that was,
or,
so there was 3 questions that came out of conversations with the parent, and Mr. Jones, and Mr. Secretary. And those were prior to this last set of questions. And the first question was, what is the rationale for keeping records 5 years? And I addressed that question was double. And then the second one was, Along those same lines, what information will we have to release if there was a public record request, which I think is a valid question. Like all other student records, you are prohibited from producing any personally identifiable information pertaining to students. It is conceivable that you may produce a yearly report that indicates how many students failed a drug test. If these documents existed, it may be produced. That's all he said, so everything else would be redacted, I need it told, even if I had that. Second question was about HIPAA, because people are concerned about that, which I think is a good question. How does this tie into HIPAA? HIPAA only applies to medical records and does not appear that it will apply here. When HIPAA was drafted, there was a concern about how HIPAA would interfere with FERPA. Accordingly, it was determined that education records subject to FERPA would not apply to HIPAA. Thus, in most instances, HIPAA should not apply. And they say C65, CF 250, 824, 833. And then the last question was regarding, there has been much community discussion about removing the testing of alcohol and nicotine from this policy. Is there a problem if they happen to make this change? Did the other policy you reviewed did they include these substances? And the attorneys say the following: there is no legal issue with removing testing of alcohol and nicotine. As your policy is currently worded, the policy states only what may be tested. As we have discussed before, this language was used intentionally to capture the universe of drugs you could test. This does not necessarily mean you will test for alcohol and nicotine. All of the other schools we examined in the state, or all the other schools we examined in the state, that they may test for alcohol and nicotine, specifically Fairbanks, Vermilion, Harrisburg, Clearport, Escambia, Fremont, Southeastern, Local. In fact, we could not find a school that did not state that it can or may test for alcohol and nicotine. Again, that does not mean that the schools are testing for the drug. It does mean that their policies state that the drug may be tested for. And those are all I think the responses I have.
I had another question, if I could bring it up.
Sure.
Some of the ladies brought up last month about if your child is on their period and is too embarrassed to take the test, what recourse would they have if they refuse to take the test that day? Some of the policies from this company that I've read gives the student 5 days to go to their facility and be tested as a backup to that very event. They're selecting the day of the test. What if she's taking a test that day? You know, those kind of things.
Kyle and the attorneys answered that one too. And Kyle's response was, if the student is absent on the day they were selected, this is what he said. If the student is absent on the day they were selected, we usually pick the next student on the alternate list. The first student is not informed. Absence is the only excuse most districts accepted for not testing, and that was from that company.
Although I read one from that company which gave you 5 days to go to Great Lakes Biomedical and have it done.
If you could share that, that would be beneficial to us, because he did not reference that in his response to us. I will tell you that the attorneys are vehemently opposed to us letting them test at another site. It says, testing the day the student is selected. As you will recall, this issue was previously discussed, and the students be given the opportunity to test elsewhere or have the parent pick up the student. So we asked them that previously based on community questions. As a preliminary note, 2 policies grant this option. We did not include this provision for several reasons. Avoiding the testing is the first one. Students may use the 5-day testing limit to avoid testing for a period of time. This may allow for the student to get a temporary reprieve from testing for the purpose of avoiding the test for a specific reason. An example given is an athletic contest or an event. This may also allow enough time for the drug to leave the student's body. This could raise constitutional questions of effectiveness. The second item is fairness in testing. Students should have to drive or find a ride to the facility. This would make the testing more accessible to students and less accessible to some students and less accessible to others based on essentially their various needs. In administrative complexity of the last item they listed, permitting these alternatives would also heighten the test administrative burden. First, the procedure would need to be established confirming the student who would be tested elsewhere. The student may be allowed to contact the parent, and there may be issues as the student waits to hear if he or she may test elsewhere, and the school would need to ensure that the student did test within permitted time period. Ultimately, this would make the test more invasive. The Supreme Court has analyzed the level of disruption that the test generates. And finally, they include, as an alternate, we decided to amend the policy to ensure that students know the consequences of a positive test. That's what we made that change, that the students are presented the policy prior to being tested. The student now has the opportunity to review the school's policy before taking the drug test. Emphasize this, we underline this portion of the policy. That was their,
So one of the things
from what
is
their
by
expectations is not.
by trying to contact a parent. I asked some of the girls, different kids at the school, and they said, if they're, a lot of them said they didn't care, but some of them that did, I said, would it make it better if your parent was there? And they all said yes. So I think by having that option, that we're gonna try and contact the
You
parent.
got 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
Like you say.
One to 2 hours.
But it's almost a 9 to 5 job, they can be there. So,
I'm sure they're gonna show up for this.
they could, they could try, yeah, right, at least it's there, so.
But you ceded the control of the test date to the vendor. What if that's what the policy says, the vendor shall pick the test date, a random test date.
In communication with us.
Yes.
That's what it says.
Well, I'm telling you what's happening, because
They
they
don't
asked
have
me,
that added. I mean, if they did it in midterms right now, what's the,
they don't control the test date, I promise you.
okay.
I can show you the email where they're asking, when would you like to begin?
Can you change that in the policy then, in consultation with you specifically?
I have no problem with that, because it's happening already.
Okay,
Again, we can't take anybody's word on this.
No, I'm just telling you that, I have no problem with that, because it's happening.
Okay.
Second paragraph. Selected by the,
the day and dates are selected by the vendor and confirmed by the designated official, so it's already in there.
But you can say, instead of confirm, you could, how could-
In consultation.
confirmed by the, or, yeah.
Selected by the vendor in
designated-
consultation with.
Selected by the designated official in consultation with the vendor. Because we're the ones that determine when we're gonna test, not the vendor.
So just switch the vendor and the designated official.
It does say that, I think this is just clear enough.
So we'll just swap it.
Or how about,
Just swap designated official and vendor. You're saying the day and dates are selected by the designated official and confirmed by the vendor. Right?
That's fine.
That's basically, that way you're not rewording, you're just switching, well, you are, but you're just switching who's,
So we're going to keep track of all these.
the understanding.
We're going to go confirm these before we vote. We're all on the same page. And that is everything that I have from the attorneys and compiler.
Okay. Okay, I need a recommendation to accept the changes of under page 2, under random selection, swapping the words vendor and designated official, so the sentence will read, the day and dates are selected by the designated official and confirmed by the vendor. And secondly, under confidentiality of process, the last sentence in the first paragraph will read, records of drug testing will be destroyed. 30,
Within 30 days.
I can't remember what I said.
30 days.
Within 30 days of graduation or student withdrawal from school. And the third is on the last page, under procedures in the event of a positive result, first paragraph, halfway through, the new sentence will read, the student participants' parents, guardians, custodian may request that the vendor have the split portion of the urine specimen tested at a different testing laboratory approved by the designated official. Okay, resolution?
Motion.
second?
Did we do we did the length, right? I'm sorry.
The only thing in that last section is what if they do split?
What'd you say?
You can split it, you say you can split the sample and send it to a separate lab. What if they can split?
What do you mean, what if they?
As long as
Say if you test a positive, or you test it on my own my own tester,
Yeah,
and
that's
they conflict.
That's the whole, so
Well, I would think it'd go by the second.
I was able to go by the, so to get a second opinion, they didn't match. Kyle's language said that we're gonna err on the side of the student.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so Ken, and Ellen seconds. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Am I allowed?
They're gonna get yelled at.
Your policy says that the child's parents will incur the cost of the counseling if found to have a positive result. What if they can't afford it? Is the school gonna be like a backup and, will counseling happen? The parents, this is to help the student. This is to, you know, get them.
And we have an answer for that. Yeah.
It is on a sliding
Think of
scale,
the
but
word.
you're
It's on a
asking if
sliding
they still
scale.
can't pay for the sliding scale amount. What happens then?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, that, and what if the parents are saying, I am not gonna do this. This is, you're making me do something I don't wanna do, even though it would help the child. A parent could say that. And, I'm saying, what if they totally flat out refuse? Is the school gonna have something as like a follow-up with that student? I know it's supposed to be all confidential, so therefore, I don't know. I
Well, I
just,
think that, I don't know, Joe, I think that obviously the counselors are not trained in, drug rehabilitation or chemical assessment dependency because they are school counselors instead of mental health counselors. However, I think that it's our commitment to help the kids out any way we can. So if we can find people to do pro bono work, if we can, obviously, we're gonna continue to monitor them.
Is in town hall too?
Just on, yeah, town hall.
Yes, yeah.
But I
I
think
just
our
think it
commitment is
would
to continue to watch them. to
yeah, I
make sure
think
we're
it would be
supporting them.
wise to have some kind of, you know, think of all of these things that can happen.
But that would still be better to go through the parent and town hall too.
Right.
Instead of us getting involved.
Right, and
I think that,
but I'm just
better to
saying,
word it.
you need to be prepared for the reaction that the school is gonna have.
That's one of the real advantages to having the superintendent being the designated official, if you will, because then, you know, it's all kept between him and the parent and trying to line up something, trying to find all the resources out there, trying to find some kind of help. And there is, I mean, there's a lot of things available at the county that for people that can't afford them.
And I know within a couple phone calls, I've seen it happen over and over. If I say there's a family that's in need, there's a list of people that are always going to help.
Again, prevention is always the best. And if you can start implementing some of the programs and the classes that the students, I know that it's hard, because you don't have the money, but that is where we're gonna keep kids off drugs. I'm sorry that this school is just shriveling. Since we transferred here, we've lost so much, and I just feel so bad that Natalie doesn't have the opportunities, even a school newspaper, that my oldest had that opportunity. It's just a shame. I feel for my daughter.
It is.
I feel for these students.
It is.
So if you can find a way to implement some programs so that you can do some preventive rather than this drug testing, I would love that. And I think the community would pass more levies if they saw some progress towards that or effort towards that. Just had to say that.
Thank you.
I've got one more quick question. What is the process to replace Mr. Jones? How does that work?
Can we finish this first?
That's the next.
That's the next thing, yeah. We're still not done with this one yet. Okay, so we want to get this passed, so we can get this wording changed. Okay. Yes, roll call.
Mr. Garrett? Yes. John?
Yes.
Ledger? Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Okay. You've got a list of all the other things you need to do. Okay. Okay.
So now we're gonna talk replacement. No, we're not doing
I think so.
Yes, we're going to executive session, we'll add it in.
Under the business, maybe, we can talk
We're
about.
still on other.
We are?
Well, we need to talk about. how
Oh, I guess
it's
we are.
like-
Okay.
Based on what I've seen and talked with it, Stephen kind of confided in me, as the letter said, like after last meeting, we talked here and there, and as part of what he asked me to do was to find out what the procedure is for replacing him, and from what I've been able to gather, and then after Steve gave me permission to share his feelings with the board and the administration, I confirmed that and that work had Matt go ahead and try to confirm what I had found. But basically, we had 30 days from the day of his resignation to fill this position for the remainder of his term, which is basically, it'd be through.
February.
No, yeah,
Term?
the term would be through through December of 2015, would be when his term expires. So, we have 30 days to fill that position, and what you typically do is the remaining board members will appoint someone. I would recommend, this is how I would like to see it completely open, but I would think that we accept letters of interest and maybe resume or whatever qualifications or however you want to say it. We have those sent into the board office to Lisa's attention, board president's attention, because this is.
Yeah, don't put.
This is something that will be handled by the board. It's not anything nothing against Todd and Matt. This is really our job to do this. And then at that point, Lisa could get all the information together of anybody who has applied. We would then sit down and figure out who we want to interview, or maybe we interview them all.
What the special?
I would think to try to avoid special meetings.
Be a special meeting?
Well, you have to do an executive session on February 13th.
I think if we said.
Final interviews or any interviews?
Interviews.
We had to have a meeting for an interview. I was thinking if we accepted letters of interest in that up to like February 1st, then that would give us a week to figure out who we want to interview. Or interview them all, and then we would do our interviews in executive session after February 13th.
Nobody else ran, right?
No, when.
I mean, nobody else ran, it's.
Keith, myself, and McKenna.
No, he's talking, you're talking about the most recent.
Yeah, that's what, last there was no new.
Yeah, they don't want.
Gail Capital is the only other person that ran.
Well, if she got any votes, why wouldn't she be the one that you would, I mean, somebody voted for?
Well, she's certainly welcome to apply.
Yes, she could apply.
And here's somebody that wanted to, was put on an election board and actually had the community voted for her. I'm sure somebody voted for her. I don't know how close the election was.
Yeah, I mean, it's open to anybody who meets the requirements, which is 18.
That's just one suggestion though, Brian, right?
You know, the legal counsel is saying that it would be better instead of, they caution us to pick.
You can't just,
Just
you
pick
can't just
Gail,
pick her
or pick the
because
last
she
person
ran
that ran.
There might be
Because
other.
then there may be other
people
people interested that technically
To
we
be
have to open
fair,
it up.
it might, yeah, to be fair.
Well, nobody else ran in this last one.
But they may have different.
Well, if anybody, I mean, it's on.
Yeah, but also, I mean, let's
It's just not.
think about it, maybe someone, if they know it's only for 2 years, then they might think, oh, okay, I might be, and they might be more qualified or more, you don't know that, so. Because it is only 2.
What I would think we would do is we would accept till sometime towards the end of January, then we would pick when we hold those interviews at the end of our board meeting in February. And then we could have a quick special meeting to appoint that person sometime between 4 or 30 days from February 1st to last. That's kind of the way I thought the time.
So as I make them in, I'll forward them to you guys.
Does that seem like a reasonable timeline to you?
I just nominate Marty right now.
Hey, send the letter.
All right. Well, it doesn't have to be from him, right? I can send it for him.
We have to be willing at any point.
1464, industry rep. Attention Lisa Bell, board president.
Letters of interest, and then if you want resumes.
A letter
What are
of
the
interest.
qualifications again? I didn't.
A resident, I mean, no, can't be resident, should vote.
whatever the qualifications officially run for the board.
Can you put that on the website?
Board of elections.
Whatever we find.
Can you put that on the website, what the qualifications are, and then if anyone wants is interested applies?
Vacant position.
We can.
I think that I think we refer them to the site to find the.
I can do that, I can do that, you can do that. I'll do that, I'll find what the qualifications are, and I will, should I get them to you or not?
Email me or CC.
Okay. And then.
Verify.
Right, that's what I mean, I'm gonna call it. Yeah, I'll call it.
Hey, that's it.
And order elections.
She's good, they do a good job.
All right, any other business? No? Okay. The consent agenda, anything you want to address before we, pretty self-explanatory. Okay, can I have a motion to accept, the calendar?
Calendar A.
Calendar A, this is on the choice, right?
Well, yeah, we did, I think basically you guys decided on it, you guys and each of the staff.
Okay. As I noticed, my child's not gonna be here next year, so I'm not gonna argue this one, but we're gonna have the Wednesday off before Thanksgiving instead of the Monday after.
Both.
Both. Oh, that's what the first is, okay. Also, it's both?
Yeah.
Oh,
Instead of the Monday after Easter.
that's interesting.
Very Monday.
So because Easter is on at the end of the spring break.
They just pay for that one.
Okay.
I limited their choices.
So now we're gonna have the Wednesday off before Thanksgiving. And we don't always have the Monday off after Easter anyway. It's just sometimes
So
it
we
happens.
get Wednesday before and then Monday. I had some feedback that people would like to have the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as
Yeah.
opposed to Monday. And then we thought about the hunting season starting Monday.
Yeah, I see.
And the students missing that, so one of the options was the Wednesday before and the Monday after to kind of have the best of both worlds.
Oh, and graduation won't be on Memorial Day again, so that's
You know, we move that based on community concerns as well. Because some people are traveling.
Yes. Okay. Okay. All right, that was it, I just said, just to verify this. Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, adding F, G, and H?
So moved.
Second,
Sounds good.
any questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. Berry?
Yes.
John?
Yes,
Okay. Yes.
motion passes.
It's kind of odd.
I don't like it. Yeah. Oh, okay, can I have a motion to recess into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, yeah.
Motion
carried. Thank you, yes.
John?
Yes,
Pleasure.
thank you.
Then you guys make a decision that, without it being passive, not just. So I'll go back tomorrow.
I can't reach the out. I'm alright.
I guess we can stop. Yeah, probably.